All right, welcome back to the Minutemen Initiative. We've got a really cool episode today. Today we sit down with Ty907. He's got himself a pretty awesome Instagram where he's pushing training and kind of firearms-related content, and he's also with Ripcord Industries and works with them and helps them out and does some different things for them. And we sit down with him to talk about the importance of intentional training, different ways you can do that, some would consider maybe unorthodox that can be extremely valuable, and then the importance of getting into competition shooting. And we also talk a little bit about community growth and the importance of that and how you can really reach out and make connections with other people and become better for yourself and better for your community. So we had a really fun conversation with him today. So yeah, hope you enjoy the episode. How's everybody doing this morning?
Dude, I'm doing good.
Doing great, man. I'm a little tired, but...
Well, we got Ty with us this morning. Thanks for sitting down and agreeing to do the podcast. We're happy to have you.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here. Just telling these guys earlier, it's my first time doing a podcast, and yeah, just super stoked. And being in the area, getting down here from Fairbanks can be kind of challenging sometimes. So
yeah.
Glad we made it work.
Yeah.
I was worried it was going to fall through a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. A lot of people don't realize how vast Alaska is. I mean, you basically traveled states upon states of distance just to come down here, you know. Well, not just to come down here, but you had some other stuff going on. But
yeah.
What were you doing, actually? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So I was in Talkeetna at the Upper Sitna Shooting Association, that range out there, and they host Arctic Guardian every year. It's a male LD-only shooting competition ran by James Drayton. I don't quite know why he started it or like when. I know it was like 4 years ago, and it was his way to like give back to the military law enforcement community for the sacrifices that we make. Me being in the Guard, I use air quotations here for all the sacrifices I make serving in Guam, getting Hilton points, but you know. So yeah, it's carbine stages, pistol stages, and then a bolt gun stage. And then, yeah, so there was about, I want to say last year was 50 shooters, 25 teams, and this year is closer to 60 and like 27, 28 teams. I don't remember exactly the number, but yeah, and we placed second, which is pretty good. Chase and I went out there and rocked it pretty hard. We're obviously like pistol and carbines are bread and butter, so that's where we make up a lot of our slop, and we get the bolt gun, and they're like, all right, you have to PID these targets at 800 yards, and you know, they're like, you got to range it, and then you have to find your dope, and then they're like, you need several hits, this many pieces of steel, and they're like, the steel plates are like this big, and him and I are out there sweating bullets, and I'm like, oh, all right, and we're clicking range, and then, yeah, dude, the bolt gun portion makes me sweat pretty hard because we don't shoot it a whole lot, but he's a 6 mil just absolutely rips, so we just get behind it and start letting rounds down range, but yeah, so placing second's pretty good. The group out there is usually like Anchorage FBI, and then there's like Anchorage PD, Wasilla PD, State Troopers, the Sniper Battalion out at J-Bear, Cadam guys, and then AFSOC is usually there. The pararescue dude's usually there as well. So we're shooting with some pretty high speed cats. Yeah. And then there's Chase and I, who's now a reservist, and I'm just, you know, an average dude in the Guard, and we're out there just slaying away, you know.
Just placing second like a boss.
Yeah, man. And back to back, dude. Back to back was really surprising because we felt like we didn't do too great this year.
So last year too. Then.
Yeah, we played second last year as well, and then we lost on first by like 100 points or something like that. So
yeah,
and we both know where we could have made those points up because it's always in the bolt gun portion that we don't do it enough, you know.
Yeah,
I don't own a bolt gun, I don't shoot bolts, so or precision.
Does it make you want to get into it more?
Yeah, I have a huge respect for the bolt gun community now because, you know, it's a little nerdy. They're like, okay, here's my ammo, like, here's my dope, you know, and everything. I'm like, it's kind of cool, all the numbers and stuff. And they're like, okay, I've ranged a target at 800 yards, your dope 6.2, you got one right to left. I'm like, oh my goodness. And these are just sending rounds down range. And there was this one stage where you had to shoot behind a barricade, and so you're like shooting offhand on one side, shooting normal side on the other side, and then you have to roll 90 underneath the barricade with a precision gun and shoot at like 600 yards on a steel plate.
Whoa.
And I'm like, I'm looking at Chase and he's looking at me. I'm like, all right, dude, we're just going to do it.
Yeah.
But we actually did fairly well. He carries me through that portion. I spot him because it's his gun, and I shoot like 1 or 2 stages just to help him out. But we rolled 90, and we didn't realize that like he was doped for that target at 500 yards. So as he shoots, the impacts go low and left, and we're looking at each other like, dude, you're holding center. Like, we don't know what's going on, but it's because the way the dope works, and I'm not bolt gun smart, but his shots were going low and left because the gun was sideways.
Yep.
And so he wasn't holding correctly for shooting the gun sideways, and that got a lot of folks. But their precision rifle courses are usually pretty hardcore, and everyone usually says they're really hard. And I would agree.
Yeah.
I don't shoot it that much. And yeah, it's more like, to me, it's always been like a precision shoot with like a pistol and carbine stage mixed in. But,
okay. Yeah, that would make sense, because that range is pretty long distance forward.
Yeah, that 1,000-yard range.
But yeah, that's something that a lot of people probably don't think about when you're getting your dope, recording your dope. Like, what are my holds when I'm laying at a 90-degree, laying sideways? That's pretty wild, especially at 600. You said 600 meters or something? 600 yards?
Yeah, I think that target was like 500 or 600 yards. So.
Yeah, dude, that's wild. I'm gonna have to go out and record some dope on my side, dude.
Yeah, got your gun sideways in the bench. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Just don't worry about
Trust me.
Trust me. Yeah. Heard about this.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on placing second.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, I guess there's 2 ways you could get better at that. You could either start shooting more bolt, or you could just start crushing it harder on the on the carbine and pistol and just make up more of the slack there. But which is saying something, because you guys are pretty quick and nimble in that area. But so you mentioned you were in the Guard. Do you want to talk at all about that, like what you do there?
Yeah, so I enlisted in the Guard back in like 2015, got out of high school, was like, oh, I'm going to go to college. Spoiler alert, I didn't go to college. So I chased the money. Turns out it's not in the enlisted side if you want the money, as you guys may know. So yeah, I started off as an aircraft mechanic on the KC-135 tanker, but the goal was always to fly. Aviation's the other passion thing that I chase after, and so now I'm a boom operator, so I lay in the back and refuel other airplanes from the air, and when I'm not doing that, sit up front with the pilots and just kind of hang out and back them up on stuff. It's an old airplane that we fly with a lot of buttons compared to some newer stuff, and so it's really easy to miss some things. Yeah, so do that full time now. That's how you make the money, I guess. It's full-time Guard. So
oh, cool. Yeah, that's probably pretty busy too, I would imagine, doing mid-air refueling. That's up in Alaska, we're kind of the aerial defense up here for the rest of America for Russia and whatnot. But
it does keep us very busy.
Yeah. You probably refuel some pretty cool stuff, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I've refueled some pretty cool things. Nothing like out of the ordinary, I guess. Like B2s and B1s or B52s. Done a lot of those dudes. F-15s and F-16s, anything in the Air Force inventory or in the like foreign receiver inventory. So like Japan Air Defense Force F-16s, or like I've done Australians and stuff like that too, and like joint exercises. But I think the most common thing is to do the F-35s co-located with us at Eielson, support the dudes out of J-Bear, like the C-17s and the C-130s, and then our alert mission, refueling the F-16s off, usually the west coast of Alaska, doing NORAD missions. So got in on that too, have some Russian intercepts. So
nice.
Yeah, real Top Gun moment. You're just out there putzing along in a tanker, and you're like, oh, look at that dude. He's, putzing along in a, like the Russian Bear bomber, or like you got like, what are they called? Like Su-27s pulling up on your wing, and all you can think about is like, that dude's got missiles and I have nothing.
but fuel.
Yeah, dude, you got fuel. You got extra stuff to get your death over with. You just be done.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So like F-22s and stuff, I'd imagine, and fueling those, and So this is actually a question I've always wanted to know the answer to.
For sure.
So can you refuel? I mean, so refueling other planes, is that like NATO planes mainly? Or do other countries that aren't NATO have that same kind of setup, or is it different?
So basically NATO airplanes, for sure we do a lot of those. So like any guys in like you say if you're like in the Europe area or, you know, in Africa and stuff, as long as they have a receptacle, we most likely will tank with them. I don't think I've tanked with a non-NATO partner, and I don't even know half the people who are part of NATO and who aren't. So there's so many. But a lot of people have air refueling capability. Like the Israelis have their own tanker. Like Korea has their own tanker. Japan has their own tanker. So, and I'm pretty sure those are all NATO partners. So as far as like non-NATO guys, I don't think I've ever done non-NATO airplanes, and probably wouldn't make much sense to do anyways.
Yeah. I was just thinking for like emergencies. Like I know there was that, and I can't remember the specifics of it, so I'm reluctant to even bring it up. But I'm pretty sure there was a time where Russians they kind of screwed up, and they ran out of fuel, and they either had to land here or in Canada or something. Do you know that situation?
I think I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, and like, because we weren't able to mid-air refuel them, obviously, so they had to like awkwardly land, and we were like, "Here's your fuel, get out of here," and they left or something. It's like, that's so random, but yeah, that's cool though. You ever refueled a C5?
No, man, I have not done a C5. I've tried to on several occasions, and I haven't. But I have done Air Force One, like the big E4.
Whoa.
Yeah, dude, that thing is just massive. Makes us feel really small, and that thing pulls up to the boom.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh.
Like, how does this even work? How do we have enough fuel for this?
Dude, it was just, I know, that was my question too. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that thing holds more fuel than we can. Well, it probably doesn't. I'm not smart enough to know. But
it's probably classified.
yeah, dude. But the most nerve-wracking thing about that too is theirs is on the front of the nose. So there's a couple different places it can be. So on the front nose is fairly common, but for like a big like Boeing aircraft, it's a little weird, and so the pilots can see you making the contact, and the airflow of the aircraft around the nose gets so bad that it actually produces like eddies off of it, and so as you're flying the boom into contact, the boom will start shaking around a little bit.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so you have to like lift it up out of the slipstream and put it back down. There's a lot of aerodynamics involved that you just really don't think about. It's another thing like with C-17, it's called the bow wave, and what happens is the air from our airplane and their airplane come together, and the slipstream kind of bind together, and the aircraft have to push through it, and then you have all the air traveling over both aircraft instead of just the one, and then the boom, you have to like push the boom into it, and you can trim the boom down or trim it up to adjust for all the wind off the other airplane to make your contacts. So it's a little more science involved that you would think.
I've never thought about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, so a lot of the testing they do on the other tankers is how does the air flowing off the tanker airplane affect the receiver airplane? Because you can wash out some other airplanes, like a C-130 faces the same issue pulling up to the boom, and they don't fly very fast. So we have to like fly really slow, drop the flaps and everything. But then when you fly slow, you can actually stall out the boom, and the boom will just go limp because there's not enough airflow going on with the rotors to actually fly it.
That's crazy. So the boom's kind of just like it's out there in the airstream, basically.
Yeah, so it's on a winch system, so you can raise it and lower it from our boom pod like a winch, and then it locks up on top, and then it goes on the freewheel at the bottom, and then they actually have a flight control stick to fly it around, and it's got so much to the left and right, it can fly up and down, so it doesn't just hang out stationary. Which is why I exist, is because they were like the most normal ones you guys have seen is like the hose and the drogue, because helicopters do it all the time. And the issue with that is it doesn't pass fuel quick enough for larger airplanes, because it only passes like maybe 2,000 pounds per minute.
Okay.
And some airplanes can burn that in a second. So the boom does like 6,000 pounds a minute instead. So it's way quicker, which is why the Air Force adopted it. And Navy didn't, because they're lame.
Well, that's nothing new. Lame Navy. No, I'm just kidding.
No, man, they're cool. They're cool.
Yeah, some of them. No, I've seen the like the C-130s that do the tag, or the, what'd you call it? The
hose and drogue.
Okay.
Yeah, drogue system, soft basket.
Yep. And then that's where you have to have that big boom that sticks out of the craft instead of kind of the other way around, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I've seen a lot of videos of like rotor tilt chopping those things up.
Yeah.
Like CH-53s and stuff getting a little out of hand and just super stallion around. Oh man. Yeah, that's wild, man. I've always been pretty mind blown by that capability. It's just like, need fuel? Here comes the gas station, you're just a flying gas station basically, which is pretty cool. But
I think I've only seen it in real life like one time. like, and randomly in Oregon. I just happened to be looking up, and they were doing in-flight fuel right above me, and I was like, that is so cool. And I remember my boss at the time, I was working construction. He was like, "You've probably seen that all the time being in the military." And I'm like, "No, that's literally the first time I've ever seen it. Like, I've never seen it happen before. Like, just watching it overhead." But
yeah, I talked to this older guy who used to do that, and he was kind of talking a little bit about it, and he was like, "Yeah," he's like, "Probably my claim to fame, or the coolest thing I ever did was I just happened to be the guy that would refuel the SR-71s after they took off, because they needed to, like, you know, they leaked so much fuel on the runway, and then because their bodies were built to expand under the heat or whatever." And it's such a cool airplane, but they'd literally take off and not have enough fuel, so they'd have to immediately, like, in-air refuel. And yeah, he did a bunch of those, I guess. It's like, that's pretty sick. But yeah, that's cool, man. How long have you done that for?
3 years now. No,
okay.
Yeah, about 3 years.
Sweet. Well, thanks for doing that, man.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. It's good. It's good to have solid dudes in the military today doing the stuff. We still need it. There's so much, like, weird, you know, not anti-government, but you know what I mean? Like, in this community, there's a lot of that, like, the government sucks sentiment, which there's parts of the government that definitely sucks, but we absolutely still need, like, good people doing it. So
yeah. Some people just, like, way far right out there, and they're like, anarchy, no government. You're like, cool.
You're like, I don't know if you know what that means.
Yeah.
Because
it's not like the movies. I hope you know that.
I want to be Mel Gibson in The Patriot.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't. Well, cool, man. Well, we'll start getting into it. We're going to kind of talk about basically some intentional training and different ways to do that. Maybe what some would consider unorthodox that I think can be extremely valuable, and then just community growth. I think that's an area that that if we can improve as a community in general, I would say that's what it would be, is being able to grow better and build connections. And there's a lot of I think it has gotten better, but there seems to be a lot of negativity in certain aspects. You know, this person doesn't like that person, or this company thinks that company's dumb, or, you know, there's, like, stuff like that. And it's just like, why, you know, and it's frustrating to see. So, but I do think that a lot of people are starting to see the importance in that. But before we get into that, you've talked a little bit about your like, personal background.
Yeah.
But as far as the community goes, you're also with Ripcord Industries. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So Ripcord Industries is started by Steve Winninger. He used to work at T-Rex Arms, and then he split off to go do his own thing. He's a prior infantry guard guy, actually, you know, Army National Guard, and then he worked on the SWAT teams for a little bit, and so we hooked up through Instagram, of all things. So that's how I got started with Ripcord. Was I went and took a class with him because we just started mutually following each other, and I'm like, hey man, I'd like to come take a class. And so I flew down to Tennessee with my buddy Drew, and we took a handgun and carbine course. And then afterwards, when I had actually gone to boom school and, like, cross-trained to my new job, I had, like, 2 or 3 weeks to kill, and I was in this area. I'm like, hey, man, this is real awkward. I'm like, I've only met you once, but, like, can I come bunk with you while I'm just down here? And he was super nice enough to be like, yeah, man, you're cool enough. You can come bunk with me. So I slept on his couch for, like, 2 weeks, and we had a pretty solid friendship that just blossomed out of that. Like, we got along really well, and we just had a great time. And he was still doing T-Rex stuff at the time, so I'd go out to the range with him and do range hand things, or, like, go to the shop and do other stuff like that. And we got to know each other pretty well. And then he had split off to do his Ripcord thing because he wanted to release a rail, and that always kind of been his dream and achievement, was like, I want to develop this product and I want to give it to the community because I think I can serve them better. And I was like, respect. So he went off and did that, and that's a huge feat. Like, you guys know, doing small businesses things can be real hard. Like, dude, I don't know if I'd have the heart for it. So props to you guys as well for doing all that stuff. So then he made the rail, and he was kind of struggling with some media things. And so, like, this is the height of COVID now, so, like, everything shut down. People were teleworking and stuff, and I jokingly text him, like, dude, I'll telework for you. I'm like, I got nothing to do. I'm locked in my room. I can't go to work. I'm like, I'll telework. And he was like, bet. And I was like, oh, you're serious? He's like, yeah, man, you want to come work for me? We'll hook you up. I'm like, dude, that sounds awesome. So the logistics is a little hard because I got a full-time job with the military. And so when I go down to him, I kind of do it as more like a helping hand. I'm not like on their payroll per se.
Okay.
So I don't, like, legitimately work for Ripcord. but I still have like a Ripcord email, and I still help with the customer service stuff just because like I like to help the dude out and do what I can. So I go down there and help with his media stuff, help get his website up, and then take all his photos, do some video stuff for him, and just other small things, and then just hang out with him as well. So that's really the big thing I do is help do the media things, because I'm still learning. And so that's kind of like the trade-off is like, hey, I need to practice my media skills and my camera work. Can I just do it for your company? And then it's just free of charge because that helps me build exposure and experience. So that's pretty much what I do for them. And then kind of like do some media repping too, you know, like I always try to tag their stuff, rock the merch, rock the rail, be an ambassador kind of deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
the rail is sick too. Like we've been wanting to build our kind of like in-house AR for a long time, which it's just it's so convoluted. There's so much more to it than we thought there'd be. Like we went into it like wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, like this is gonna be sick. You know, we're gonna have somebody make us a variance lower and blah 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 because we're a manufacturer, Type 7 manufacturer, but we don't have any of the tooling to do all that.
Right.
And so you have to do a variance through another manufacturer and blah blah blah. And it's just, we had someone we were kind of working with, and then we're like, we're not really ready yet, kind of back and forth. And then, but yeah, I reached out and talked. I think I talked to you a little bit.
Yeah,
you did. Yeah, dude, just reach out. And then talked to him, and he was awesome. He's like, how many do you want? And I was like, well, we're gonna, we kind of need to test it. And he's just like, yeah, dude, let me know. And then I kind of was like, well, we're gonna have to hold off because I found out it was a little more complicated.
Yeah.
But we still want to do it. And I think that is absolutely like the rail that we want to try before we try anything else. Cause I love the idea behind it. And for those that aren't familiar with it, well, you could probably talk more about it than I could. So if you want to explain
yeah, for sure. So the biggest comment we get is everyone's like, oh, it looks just like a Geisley rail. I'm like, it's an M-Lock rail. Like they all kind of look identical, so you're gonna have to get over that. It's not a Geisley rail, and the big key differences is, and we're always making changes. I've seen like 3 or 4 versions of this thing now, and the biggest things that I can speak for is that the rail length, that we offer a bunch of different lengths because the idea is to get it right next to your barrel, so that way you don't have that ugly gap of like suppressor or derail. So that way it's a nice flush fit. And then the other thing too is we deleted the middle section of the M-Lock rails. I say we, like I helped design it. It was really Steve. He deleted those sections of the rail for 2 things. A, they just weren't being used. Like people put rail scales in there or whatever. B, it helped strengthen the rigidity of the rail, and it also protects your hands. So like where your hand is sitting at, dude, we've shot these rifles with suppressors and you got them cooking, dude. And like you can still grab your rifle with the bare hand, and it's awesome. It's pretty nice. And then putting the traction tape in, it's really nice too. And then the barrel nut is modded a couple different ways. I don't quite remember all the specs behind it, but a lot of the weight, because people complain the rail is heavy, is actually towards the back of the rail at the barrel nut to help lock it in place. And gotta take a breath here. Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, feel free to slow down, man. Yeah.
Getting excited. Yeah, so the the barrel nut is really kind of like the hidden gem of the differences in the barrel nut and the metal that he used to help strengthen the rail. And I think it's Nocturnality Gear or Nocturnal Industries. They did a report of like how well the rail holds zero with an IR device. And it stacked up pretty well. I think it was either the second or like the premier choice of if you use night vision. And that was the other thing too, is that he saw a lot of POI shift with laser devices because the rail would get hot, it would warp, it would turn. And I think a lot of people don't think about that because they just throw rails on the leg. Yeah, man, I'm good to go. Yeah. And they don't shoot night vision. And that was kind of an important thing to him, is like, hey, man, if you're shooting night vision under nods and you got a laser and you're like, a cop or something, rolling with a team in a stack, and you got to make sure your hits are methodical and well placed, you don't need a POI shift sending a random one out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's super important.
Yeah, I actually thought that was the main, like I kind of figured that was the main reason for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I know, since you said Geisley, a lot of people compared to the Geisley rails, so they were notorious for having POI shift like really bad. Rails warping like crazy, which is funny because they're also known as being a super strong, stout rail. So it's like, stuff starts heating up and things change, I also don't think it looks like the Geisley rail at all, personally.
We've got a lot of comments about it.
Yeah, I've seen people be like, yeah, just, it's a Geisley. And I'm like, dude, it looks way different. Like the way where the rail, interfaces into the receiver, like that aesthetically looks.
I could see where people were talking about like on the, like you said, like where the barrel nut is, like how you guys have. Plate. Yeah. I could see maybe there, but even then it's got a completely different look.
Yeah, I think it looks sick.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. But
yeah. Oh, that was another thing too. Sorry to like jump in here. I'm remembering things. If you look at a rail and you look at the Picatinny slots on the top, he had measured them individually, so that way that top piece of Picatinny rail between your upper receiver and the rail is usable. So if you want to bridge across, they're specifically length. And if you look at the different length rails, you can see that some of them are thicker and some of them are thinner for that reason. And the M-LOK segments are also fitted that way as well. So
Smart.
a lot of the small things that are overlooked in other rails where you don't think about it until you need to do it. But like dudes who run like, scope rings all the way up front, or like they want to bridge things between the rail without having to go monolithic, those segments are trimmed appropriately for that.
Yeah, that attention to detail seems to be true across the board too. Like I've been paying attention to the receivers that you guys are putting out, which looks sick. There's something about Ripcord's logo. It's very like old school vibes in a fantastic way.
Yeah,
I really want to maybe snag up some stripped receivers for sure for some builds. But yeah, and then they're M16 pocketed, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, which is good.
Yep.
But
very spicy.
Yeah, very 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 sensual. But yeah, and then the links, like that attention to detail of that's what got me onto it. I was like, oh, they make a rail for a 13.9 inch barrel and it's Criterion, which is, in my opinion, one of the best AR barrels you can get, especially for chrome lined, and I mean they have their hybrid profiles and stuff, but all their barrels are sick. Their core series barrels are legit. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So definitely check out Ripcord if you're listening, and if you haven't already. But well, cool. Yeah. So beyond that, you talked a little bit about camera stuff. Like when did you get into like the camera vibes?
Game. Yeah, the camera game. Oh,
what do you call that?
Dude, so I get into all my hobbies accidentally. I don't go out searching to find new hobbies to burn money. It just happens. They find me because I get interested in something, so I start researching it, and then obviously in the gun world, you're like, you kind of have to ball out a little bit. Like you can't go buy the cheap stuff because it doesn't last. So that's a lesson learned. And like you like buy once, cry once. But what they don't tell you is that you're not just buying once; you buy a lot of times, and then you cry multiple times. And then your wife is like, "Why are there all these weird stains on your pillow?" And you're like, "Oh, don't worry about those. They're not my tears or nothing." So yeah. I wanted to take photos of my car. That was the original thing. I was like taking photos of my car, and I was using my iPhone because my Instagram page actually started as like car stuff. That's what I wanted to do, was just post photos of my car. Yeah, I was never meant to do gun things.
Whoa.
Yeah, so if you went like way back when, I built like a little 1997 Honda Del Sol, and I turboed it and I dropped it, put it on nice suspension. Like I rebuilt it from the ground up, and that was what my Instagram was. And then the gun things once again also happened accidentally. That was never the avenue my IG profile was meant to go down. So back to the camera stuff. I just want to take photos because I thought it'd be cool. And so my mom had like this kit camera. It was like a Canon Rebel T something. I don't remember it anymore. And so I was just out there blasting photos of my car on auto mode, because I don't know a camera to save my life at the time. So I was just out there taking photos of like my buddy's car and my car, and they just turned out real crisp. And I look on Instagram like, why are my photos not like his photos? Like, why do my photos suck so much more when I'm? I'm like,
like, aren't we doing the same thing?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm taking photos too, man. Like, what are you doing that I'm not doing? So, so I was like, I want better photos of my car, and the guy I was talking to on Instagram at the time was like, hey man, I've got a camera set up. If you want it, I'm moving on. You can take better photos. And he was showing me all his car photography. And I'm like, okay, I can get down. So he sold me a Sony A7, like the base A7 with 3 APS-C kit lenses. And for the non-camera folks, that's the crop sensor of the mirrorless camera, and a couple flashers. And so then I just started taking photos of my car and everything else. And all of a sudden my brain went, I could just use this for the range and take photos at the range. I'm like, oh. So, and what I didn't know at the time was that photos and videos are not the same world, like relatively at all. The amount of experience you need to do video stuff is it's a lot more than I ever give it credit for. So then I'm out there like buying mics, buying gimbals and everything else. And next thing you know, I'm like a couple grand deep into videography because, I went from car stuff to like, wow, this could really boost myself on Instagram. I'm going to go ahead and start doing it for my Instagram page. And I think if you look back on my Instagram a little bit, before I'd gone back from boom school at this time. You could see the shift in like the quality of my Instagram feed going from like phone videos to like nice crisp like camera videos and photos, and that was only because for some reason I didn't think about like doing it for the range. It was just for personal use, just to take photos of airplanes because I fly, and to take pictures of the car. So
yeah.
And like I said, now I'm incredibly in debt to camera gear. And I just find myself always wanting the newest thing. The new lenses come out. I bought the new camera when it was released, and I never intentionally wanted to buy my Sony a7 IV, but I toasted mine when I was deployed, air quotations for deployed there, you guys can't see, to Guam, and the moisture had killed my camera.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and the lenses were good, and so I was like, well, I was going to paint my car. I'd save money to paint my car and end up buying a camera instead. So... yeah.
So the debt remains. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, camera stuff is it's just intimidating, man. It's like, I know enough to, well, the old classic, I know enough to get myself in trouble. I don't know very much, but we limp through it. But it definitely makes a difference. Like, we were kind of talking about it off mic, but that jump from phone to camera, like you're saying, is just, it's astronomical when you start doing it, and you can just pull out so much more detail in a pic, like especially for picture. I'm definitely a little more learned up on the photography side. I wish I knew more about video. That's something that I've done a little bit of filming and editing and stuff, but it always, like, I always look at other people's videos and I'm like, how does it look so sick? And I just feel like my videos look so dumb, but so I got some more work to do and reading to do there. But like, your videos look super good on your page, and yeah, and you see like a lot of this high definition, like a lot of like panning and like slow-mo kind of mixed in with like more dynamic kind of feel stuff. And then I try to do stuff like that, and it just looks like and I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to use the standard speed, no panning, just cool edits that are matched up to music. Like, I'm pretty good at doing that kind of stuff, and that's about where it ends. But, well, cool, man. So I guess moving forward, so you kind of, I guess this will kind of wrap up into how did you get into guns, but you mentioned that you had a start in kind of the airsoft world, and that is something that I think is super valuable, and I think there's a lot of benefits to that. For one, being younger before you're legally allowed, which I think is stupid, but legally allowed to own guns and whatnot. There's that side, but then even for guys that have been in it for a long time, I think airsoft offers so many good training opportunities for like force on force kind of stuff. But so yeah, you want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, man, talk some airsoft. So I got into airsoft pretty young. I had moved up here to Alaska, and I lived in Europe previously, so no guns, nothing there. And
really,
yeah. So super strict things. Came to Alaska, and all my friends that I were meeting, like, they had airsoft guns. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I'd ask my parents if I'd get one, and I'm sure you guys know the answer. The answer was no. They're like, why do you need that? I'm like, to shoot my friends, obviously. Have you ever been shot at when you don't have one? It's not a good time. So at some point they had caved and let me buy an airsoft gun, and so my friends and I would just go play in the yard because it was fun. It was better than playing Call of Duty. You could be outside with your friends, go wear a camo. Like, they had all these sweet little guns, and I wasn't playing with like the high rolling AEGs or like gas guns. They were just these little springers. Yeah, go play in the yard, and it was fun. And actually, before that, the entry level into airsoft gun was Nerf guns, dude. That was my big thing, was Nerf guns growing up as a kid, because my parents would let me have an arsenal of Nerf guns. Like, they're just cheap, colorful toys. And then my friends were like, Nerf is cool, but have you tried airsoft? And that to me was like the same bridge as, like, people would say airsoft is cool, but try a real gun. So as a kid, I'm like, what's airsoft? Yeah. So anyways, then the airsoft guns came along. They looked realistic, and you're like, wow, this thing looks like a freaking 1911. That was, I think, one of my first guns was like a little Springer 1911 gun that they had given to me because my parents would let me buy one. So they'd gifted me one of the old ones to hold on to. And I ran with that for a while. And then as we got older, we kind of learned that, hey, that airsoft guns are better than pulling them back every time to shoot. You can get them with batteries. So then all my friends and I were like, well, let's get the battery operated ones, and pool money, birthday presents, whatever. We had all gotten into the nice airsoft guns, nicer, like the mid-tier $100 guns with batteries and everything in them, shoot a little further. Yeah, and pretty much that was like the thing I did growing up as a kid, was playing airsoft a lot. And then there was a local field in our area that played on like some just open range land. Like, it wasn't anything special. It was over, like, people dumped their wood and stuff there. Like, it was just a podunk area off the neighborhood. So we had, Facebook was obviously big at the time, and so we had found a Facebook group that played airsoft, started playing with them, and then we showed up and they had way better equipment than we did. And we're like, oh, so there's another step to this. And so then we all were getting into the $200-$300 guns, and kind of rambling on about the cheap style of airsoft. But long story short, that's kind of where I started learning about like gear, and I think Travis Haley and Chris Costa, you know, Larry Vickers were really big at the time, and so we were looking at like the C clamps. And, you got to put your red dot like all the way at the end of your gun.
Chris Costa,
sick. Dude. So then we were really big into like mimicking them, because we saw those were the dudes who were leading the gun industry, and we're like, like those are the soft dudes, so we got to mimic them. So we were buying like all the gear they had, like their duty belts. You know, we were buying the real gear because you could buy that off an airsoft website because they carried it. So you weren't buying like the knockoffs. You were trying to buy the real stuff. And the repros are pretty good too. I have my very first JPC, like replica JPC, I bought for $40. I think some dude in Fairbanks still has it, and he puts his real plates in there, and I'm like, rad, man. That thing was made in China. It's been owned by like 5 people, and he's still using it. So I guess China knockoff gear can shine sometimes.
Dude,
it was a pretty wicked plate carrier for me, and I'm a small guy, so that's why I like JPCs. They fit me. So playing with the airsoft community was really great, because it's just anyone from like 12 up to adults, and you're just out there to have a good time and have fun. And and then afterwards I was like, airsoft is cool, but it's just not the same. And then T-Rex arms started picking up, and I think that's kind of what bridged me into real guns. I was watching like Lucas from T-Rex Arms, and you know, when that stuff started climbing to glory. And then my parents had allowed me to buy an AR-15 because I still lived with them at the time, and my dad's like, here's this Bushmaster AR-15 for $500 that my buddy's selling.
Nice.
So I bought that while I was in basic training. Like I'd sent him money, and he had picked that up for me, and then that got me into the real steel game as a Bushmaster AR. So, and I still have that lower. The rest of the gun is gone, but I still have the original lower from that rifle.
Nice.
So I hold on to it, I guess.
Dude, an old Bushmaster lower. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, back when they were partnered, like I think Colt and Bushmaster were still going to the same manufacturer for their stuff, and I didn't know that at the time. So it's a Bushmaster stamped lower, but I think it's also still a Colt lower, like forged, because it's from the same forge.
Yeah.
If I remember that correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, airsoft is a really great tool, and that's where I got my start. And I think we've gotten better over the years of like accepting the airsoft community for what it is, because a lot of people are like, oh, who wants to play airsoft? You know, real guns are where it's at. But it's just a lot of good fun, man. And a lot of my mechanics came from airsoft, because once again, I watched the YouTube videos, and I'd be practicing. I'd be dry firing in my room, my reloads, because I'm like, oh, I'm totally gonna mark this guy next time. My reloads are so freaking quick, like, you know, running mid-cap magazines. But yeah,
dude, that's so cool, and it's awesome to see. I think you're 100% right. I mean, it's something that has gotten a lot better, but it has farther to go, because it's like, especially the younger guys that are there because that's all they can do right now.
Yeah, exactly.
What a great place to be, because not only are they getting into guns, because I think it's a pretty natural progression. It's like, if you get into airsoft, they're so realistic now. Like they're insanely realistic.
Oh, they've gotten better over the years. It's insanely better.
Yeah, and then you have all these companies too that are releasing like their like training version. So it's literally like a licensed product from them. You know, like we have a few of the Knights Armament licensed like guns that, you know, they're stamped with the cool Knights Armament lower.
That's Gucci.
They were actually cheap. I mean, what were they, like $160 or something?
Yeah, it's like a couple $100. I mean, we got them discounted, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but they were, I mean, it's like, we've actually never shot them. We used them for like, our original reason for getting them was to have hands-on display stuff in the shop without being, you know, as worried about somebody just, one, running out the door with it, or two, like jamming a mag and just going crazy. That wouldn't go good for them probably, but
no.
Yeah, we're pretty fast from concealment. But anyways, I don't know. You never know, dude. Someone can get you. But also just like the safety of it. And then if you have, you know, having that bridge of like younger guys coming in the shop that are interested, and then you can like, with no worry at all, like hand them this thing that feels and is weighted, not quite the same, but similar to a real one, that's able to have real stuff mounted to it. You know, it's got real M-lock. It's got a real buffer tube that you can mount real stocks on and put real optics on. So that was kind of why we got them, was to have like more hands-on display capability in the store. But yeah, and then the more we looked into it, we're like, man, we should just buy because they come without batteries, which is lame.
It is pretty lame, but it's almost for good reason too, because the batteries that they used to come with are just like, they're cheap. They're not good for your gun. Yeah, like you don't want to use the battery that usually comes with your gun.
Oh, okay.
So it's better that way, and personally, and it saves you cost because then you're not paying the extra $15 for the provided battery when you can go buy a nicer one for like $25.
Oh, that makes way more sense.
Yeah, so I think that's a blessing in
Good
disguise.
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't have batteries for them yet, so we'll have to go get some batteries. But yeah, we started looking at them. We're like, dude, we should mess with these and do some like force on force stuff, and some of the Milsim events that are getting put on by like some of these places in the lower 48 and stuff. It's insane. I mean, they're doing like legit tactics, like breaking contact with smoke grenades and doing all this stuff, and it's like, dude, but.
I think it's all about mindset going into it, because you can make it as real or unreal as you want, as far as like, if you go in with the right mindset, like let's get good training value out of it for making it applicable for actual firearms. I think it's a great tool,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what my buddies and I do is, we just go play at a local field and we play pickup games back in Fairbanks. But what we do is that all of our rifles, we try to mimic off a real one. So like my airsoft one has a ripcord rail on it, actually.
Sick.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And then I put my fake PEC box in the same place, whatever you want to call that thing. Airsoft terms, they call it PEC instead of like a D-ball, whatever, PEQ. And then I put my grip and everything in the same place. Furniture, I bought a airsoft LPVO for it, so that way it kind of feels the same. Sometimes I go a little too hard with it because when the airsoft gun jams, I try to do real rifle remedials, and they got little fake charging handles on them.
Yeah.
And one day I was out there and my gun stopped and I was like, whack, and I ripped back on that thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's not supposed to do that. But one thing we tried to do, or the biggest learning value we've learned, is we like to watch where we get our hits, because that's where we get exposed. So when we're out there on the field and I get a hit in the arm, I'm like, oh, so my arm was exposed. Where was my arm exposed? Was I using the cover properly?
Oh, like where you're hit, you're saying?
Yeah, where we get shot. And what we learned a lot was that me and my buddies, we were never getting any rounds to the plate carrier. We were always getting shot in the legs and in the arms or in the face, because that's always what we were exposing behind cover.
Whoa.
So those are the things we look for at those pickup games, and it's a good way to test your gear. So we wear our real stuff out there. I put my plate carrier on, put my belt like you should.
Yep.
And I'll talk about it later, but my cold start actually kind of developed from airsoft, because I learned like in the heat of the moment, I would reload from my belt and then keep going, and then realize I don't put another mag in there back into my belt. So then I have to reload again. It's coming off my plate carrier, it's coming from like a pocket or something weird, because I'm not paying attention to my gear setup.
Yeah.
So those are things we try to cross check, and some radio things too, just some cheap bayo things. We all get calmed up and try to practice like some basic tactics of like shifting dudes to the left, shifting to the right,
Nice.
pulling back and be like, hey man, cover me, covering, shoot, move, communicate kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's legit.
So not necessarily like the remedials of the real rifle, but just, working with a squad like you were talking about earlier, getting in that mindset, and then really just kind of paying attention to where you're getting shot at from. Are you taking hits to the left arm all the time? Or are you paying attention to where your legs are? Like things that you can talk about on the range, because someone calls you out like, oh, you're shooting behind that VTEC barrier and I can see your leg. But in airsoft, you'll get shot in the foot and be like, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
Like you saw my foot. Of all the things, I took around in the foot.
Yeah.
So
Do you guys implement training medical stuff as well in that, or?
No, not into the airsoft stuff. We have been talking about trying to do some medical things. We got a buddy up north who's an EMT, so that'll probably be an offline stuff. And I know you guys are going up north, I think, to teach a medical class as well. But in the airsoft world,
Sick.
We don't incorporate much medical. It's just a little too time consuming to do.
Yeah.
Middle of the airsoft game, you're like, okay, your buddy's bleeding out from the femoral artery. Are you going to apply a tourniquet, or is it in the junction? Are you going to pack it? Are you going to wound seal it? And you're out there and you're like ripping open your $90 worth of medical equipment, trying to pack a fake wound. Yeah, so
it'd be kind of sick.
It would be.
It'd be cool to have like
I think
specific
training tourniquets would be as far as I would go with that.
Yeah,
you get hit in a, leg or arm. It's like, you could throw a tourniquet on.
Yeah.
Just for reps.
Yeah.
But
and that's probably something we could do. And I think that'd be fun, but we just, we want to be out there to play as well and have some fun. And
for sure.
Sitting there behind cover, trying to get your buddy to throw a tourniquet on, and while you could have gone back and respawned by now and been in the game shooting the dude who shot you, you're like, we'll get it later.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, so we actually grew up on paintball. So back when we were coming up, airsoft was like almost non-existent.
It pretty much was.
Yeah, it was literally all spring guns,
Yep.
or the really expensive. Like there was no in between. There wasn't really, that I remember, there wasn't really any battery powered ones of worth any note. Like worth, they were just weird.
So that's like the full auto Uzis. Like I remember those things. Like,
Yeah,
dude. Yeah.
But
Remember those?
yeah, and it was at the time it was just so lame. Like they looked really like toyish. Yeah, and yeah, when you play paintball, like we were all super invested in paintball, and they hit so hard, and so you have that stupid like ego for no reason of like paintball's tougher.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like what I grew up around. So I had this not negative, but I had this view of paintball, or I mean airsoft, of like, yeah, all right, But then I started actually seeing how much they've improved, and
they actually smack you too now.
yeah,
they
they freaking zip you. And the fact that they're, I remember back in paintball, we'd play like what they used to call rec ball, or like woods ball.
Yeah, woods ball. Yep.
Yeah. And you literally build a paintball gun to look as much like a real, it was milsim stuff. So, and they never did. They like, you build a Tippmann A5 that's got like the MP5 kit on it, or the M4 kit on it, and they just look dumb. Like they don't.
Big old hopper on the top.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
magazine holds tools,
and then you have a tank like under your arm. So, or if you're super cool, you run a remote cable that goes to your tank on a belt.
Yeah.
But still, it's like you couldn't quite get there. And then you just wake up and you realize, I could get a speedball gun and just smoke all these kids, which is basically what we ended up doing.
Yeah.
We bought invert minis, and they were just like, and you just smoke people, and they're electric guns, and they shoot more accurate and all the things. But yeah, I remember trying to like modify paintball guns as in my younger years to like look like real guns, because you're interested in that, you want to do that. But then airsoft, it's like straight out of the box. I mean, it's you put them side by side in some cases. It's insane. Like we actually have a buddy who we shoot with pretty often that brought some guns in, and it was pretty sneaky. He's like, "What do you guys think of? What do you guys think?" And he had it was 3 Bravo Company guns.
Yeah.
And we're like, "Oh, sick," And the one, we're like looking at it or whatever, and then I go, "Oh, that one's an airsoft gun." He's like, "Yep." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." And I'm kind of looking at it, and it was relatively obvious, but it said BCM on it and stuff.
Yeah.
And then so we're kind of cruising, talking, conversation goes on. He goes, "Just so you know, 2 of those are airsoft guns, not just one." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yep." And I go back, I'm like looking at him, and I'm like, "What?" And so I'm like, okay, I'm going straight to the bolt,
Yep.
So I'm like looking at it, and it's still a little bit like, what? And then I'm like, okay, this is the airsoft gun, but wow. I mean, it's all aluminum. It looks identical to the Bravo Company gun that he actually had. And even the bolt like came back, and once you look in there, you're like, oh, and it was a gas powered, so it actually like charging handle, or bolt reciprocates and everything. It's got a little bit of recoil. And
we started shooting it in the shop. I think that day. I think we just started shooting around.
We just shot it at our walls. We're like,
Nice.
is it going to destroy our walls? And it definitely dented our walls a little bit.
Yeah, it does.
No, we don't care.
I've done that in my parents' garage. I had a gas gun, and I'd shoot it in the garage and put holes in the garage door, like little dents. I don't think they know that, but if they listen, they probably will now.
Allegedly.
Yeah, no, gas guns are great. They just require a lot of maintenance, because I had a gas gun for a while, and I had an M4 carbine, and the cool thing about those gas guns is they fit a lot of the real steel parts. Like you can put, a BCM furniture on it, you can put a BCM rail on it, you can put anything you want besides the internals. And the trigger pull is about the same. The bolt reciprocates. It's a lot more satisfying to get a kill with it, because, you're not just like spraying and praying. You get 30 rounds and that's it. The mags are heavy. They weigh like a real loaded mag. So I used to run around with like 8 of these gas mags. But they just had too many issues, man. They're fun to play with in the shop, but I wouldn't like recommend them for like normal field play. You're just going to get outclassed by AEGs. Yeah. And that's what I do. They're just cheaper to maintain. Yeah, man, those gas guns, they're pretty sweet. And you can like, they got buffer weights and buffer springs, and like the bolt looks really similar, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're way more expensive too.
They're very expensive.
So it sounds like you're going to spend more for something that's going to perform less.
Correct. Yeah. Especially when those mags get cold, because they're propane, right? So if you're out there just lighting something up, the mag will start, like the gas starts condensing. Yep. And then you're out of Schlitz halfway through a mag, because you shot too quickly. Now all the gas is used up. And they got O-rings and seals you have to worry about. And I have like 8 mags, and 5 of them would work, 3 of them would leak. And then like your performance was heavily weather based. If you shot on a cold day, your gun was not going to work because the propane would just freeze up on you.
Sounds like paintball guns. Playing paintball up here in the winter was always the worst because you use CO2, and the cold CO2's trash.
It sure is.
And then we all like converted to compressed air, which was a lot better, but still you have, O-ring problems, and electrical boards and stuff start having problems in the cold, and it's a thing.
Yeah.
But you mentioned something a little bit earlier that I kind of want to jump into now. You talked about being into airsoft and then making the transition kind of into real firearms, and you talked about something that I thought was cool that you mentioned about T-Rex arms. And that's one of the coolest things I think that he's done with his company is really target like younger generations, and specifically I think he's done a good job at kind of introducing people that play like video games and or airsoft and being like, hey, here's how you bridge the gap into the real gun side of things. Was that a pretty big player for you, or just a component of it?
It was, for sure. Credit where credit is due. He's doing a good job doing that stuff. So I was on Instagram, and my girlfriend at the time convinced me to get Instagram. So I was like, it's whatever. And so I get on Instagram, and I see him out there, shooting guns and stuff like that. Looks cool. Like, I would like to do that. There was never no like desire to train, or like I feel a duty to protect my family or whatever. It was just, it looked cool. That's what got my attention.
Yeah.
I was like, he's out there shooting real guns. He's not going to the normal range. Like, our normal range is called Cushman. I don't know if you guys have been to that range. No. But it's funny.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so it's not the FUD things where like my buddies and I, range day was going out with our hunting rifles and then shooting 300 yards to get a 0. That was our range days. Like shooting clay pigeons. It was never ARs, and if it was ARs, it was like, I'm going to shoot this target at 10 yards or blast a
let's blow up this pumpkin. Yeah,
correct. That was our range days. And he's out there like, he's got kid on. He's like running around, blazing targets down. I mean, I don't know what the hits looked like, but I didn't care at the time because I was like, that looks cool. I want to do that. I want to do what he's doing. And I was finding like gravel pits and running out with my Bushmaster AR, and we were just going to town. Like, we didn't have pack timers or nothing. We were just trying to get out there and do it and mimic what he was doing because we thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm not going to say it's kind of the driving focus of some of my content, but half of it is if people see it, I want it to look cool. And maybe that's not the right thing to say, but the things that look cool is what gets people's attention.
Yeah.
And it can introduce some of the most random aspects of the community. I've had people reach out to me on Instagram like, hey man, I don't know who you are, but I saw your story or I saw your post, and I'm like, that looks really cool. What do you know about guns and how do I get into it? And it's like, just like that. You have now introduced someone new to the community just because you posted a sweet video.
Yeah.
So yeah, he did have a pretty big impact on me trying to get into the community and start shooting real steel guns because it was different. That was the big thing. It was different and it was cool. And it's not everybody was doing it.
Yeah. So. Especially I think in that way. It was, people have been shooting like that for a long time, but it wasn't as exposed, I think, is what they've been able to become. And
it was really guarded, if anything.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like if you wanted to go take a class with any of those big high rollers, you had to pay money. You had to, know somebody or know somebody. They weren't just open enrollment classes, and if they weren't advertising. And I think that was a generational thing where like those dudes teaching those classes didn't have social media growing up. They were like, well, I'm not going to learn social media. Like, why do I need to do that? And then you have the dude in the middle who was like, this is the way to do it. So yeah,
and with guys like that, they've a lot of them had contracts, and so they didn't really need much of the civilian market. So I can kind of understand it, and I actually never thought about it though, like how you just explained it, where it's a generational thing. They didn't have social media, so that wasn't a priority. Didn't even think about it like that. But that would definitely be that definitely makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I mean, now I feel like there's so much saturation in a good way out there for that kind of stuff. A lot of people putting out content, and that is kind of bridging. But yeah, so when you started getting into real firearms, like what were your first steps?
I'm not gonna lie. The first step was I want to look cool. I want to look like him. So I was trying to figure out what kind of gears he was using. I was trying to, like, I bought a Glock 19. That was the second gun I bought. I had to have someone else buy it for me. So
we were the same way.
Yeah. So I had a Glock 19, had a T-Rex Arms Kydex holster, and all I do was go out there and I do like 1R1s or, just trying to get out there and just see, because I didn't know how to do drills. I didn't know the things you wanted to work on. I just wanted to shoot a piece of cardboard. So I had like my Bushmaster AR. I'd put like a UTG key mod rail on it. And it was just a normal 16-inch gun, had like a drop-in trigger, and I just went out there and tried to put in work at this gravel pit, essentially. So
cool.
Yeah, and I tried to get my friends to come with me because they were all in the guns too. So we're like out there wearing our airsoft gear, shooting real steel guns, and just trying to make it work, I guess. I don't think I really had a goal. I was just trying to go out and get it done. So
yeah. When would you say you started kind of seeing it more from like the self-defense or kind of practical perspective?
It probably wasn't. Geez, I gotta think about that now. I think it really started when I started to concealed carry. When I was concealed carrying, I was like, this is different. This isn't just going to the range. You are now a responsible citizen with a firearm walking amongst everybody else. And if something happens and you need to use that firearm, you better be capable. There's no like half-assing being out there carrying a firearm. And I think a lot of people kind of forget that because it's maybe habitual to just put a gun in their pocket and go. But I'm sure you guys seen the dudes that run around who open carry, or they like, have it on their belt, or, they're just, they're more or less flaunting it, or, dudes who concealed carry and they're printing like no one's business. Yeah. And I don't think people realize like, you're just not carrying a gun. You are now stepping out of your house and you're assuming the responsibility that if something happens, you are going to respond to it. Yeah. Like, how cowardly would it be? And maybe that's a strong word to be like, I was in that area, I had my farm and I didn't do anything. I think I would live with guilt for the rest of my life if I did not take the responsibility to defend others. And a lot of that sense started coming after I joined the military. And I was like, now I'm in the military, I'm serving my community, now I felt like I had a duty to do it, like whether the uniform was on or whether it was off. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool to hear. And I think that is an area that some people miss. Like you said, it's kind of built out of complacency or even just kind of feeling like that's the norm. Like, shoot, I should probably carry a gun.
Exactly.
And then there does need to be a mindset shift of like, holy cow, I mean, I might have to shoot somebody. Like there's a reality of if something happens and my life's in danger or someone else's life is in danger, that means I'm deploying this firearm and shooting at a person.
Exactly.
Which should never be taken lightly, because it's having to shoot at another person is something that is hard to explain. But it's a reality that we all share. If it's, if you choose to carry, you are taking on that responsibility of, this is a last resort, but I do have this on me in case things go really bad, and I'm not going to be a victim. I'm going to protect myself and my family or my friends. But that's a big responsibility.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Do you think that realization has kind of changed, like your overall vision of how you train? Like obviously you're still making cool looking content, but you're starting to mention things like tracking your hits in airsoft and, picking up on little things like that. So it sounds like you're very intentional about, where are we making mistakes? How can we improve? So is that kind of born out of that mindset, or?
Yeah, I would say so. Because like the last thing you want to do is if you decide to play a weapon in any means or encounters, and as we've seen in the last couple of years, as it gets pushed to more media outlets, like there are shootings, there are instances where things happen. Like there was a shooting that happened in my neighborhood, and it wasn't like a real one. There was just a dude walking around the neighborhood popping the gun off like that. I think that's really what was going on. He was like drunk or on drugs or whatever. But the fact is, like, we have built this complacency of we live in a safe area, and my wife works in mental health now, so she tells me all the crazy things that are going on, and it turns my life from like, wow, things are rainbows and unicorns where I live, to who are you? What are you doing over here? Kind of deal. Like it just kind of shifts how you view things, I guess. And yeah, it makes the training more intentional. Like you can definitely go to the range and have fun. And I always try to remember that, like some drills, you don't need to track hits. You don't need to go out and mark it and break things down to a science. Like you can just go out and shoot to have fun too. And I feel like people are either one or the other. They're out there just blasting with their friends, or they're like, I'm coming out here and I'm doing my reps, I'm getting my hits, and I'm leaving. And that gets really boring really quickly. It's like going out, and there are some range days where a lot of mine now, I don't film anything because I'm out there and I do one drill or I practice one thing to keep myself like in a groove, essentially.
Yeah.
And if there's value to be had in anything, then you should seek it. Like, so in airsoft, if you're out there to have fun and you can learn something from it, then why not? Everything can be a learning opportunity, whether it's you learn to not to do that thing or you learn something new to try. So just trying to be more open-minded about things, really.
Yeah, I think blending the two is something you have to kind of learn how to do.
Yeah.
But once you figure it out, it's so fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Like when we go shoot, we usually go out with a group, and sometimes we'll have kind of dependent on how much time we have and different things like that. Sometimes we'll have like goals. Like it's like, hey, here's the things we want to work on, but we always make sure to make it super light and have a fun time doing it. Lots of laughs, lots of joking around, lots of like, if somebody messes up, it's not like, dude, that sucked. Like, it's a lot more like, oh no, dude, what in the world? Like, boofing around, and then oh, let me run it again. So, I think trying to find a cool balance between the two is definitely fun. And you can do it. I think it just takes trying to loosen up a little bit, or if you're on the other end of the spectrum, kind of just be a little more intentional. So
yeah, exactly.
But it seems like you guys have a pretty good balance. It seems like you guys are having fun from what I see of your content and some of the other guys that I think you're connected with. And I'm trying to connect the dots. Like there's people we're talking to, and like, I know him. Yeah. And so I haven't met all the guys that you're around, but it seems like you have a pretty cool crew up there. So
yeah, they're a good bunch of dudes. I'm not gonna lie, I definitely started doing a lot of things on my own personally because ammo cost of all things. Like I can't go out and blast like I used to. I can't stop by the store on my way to the range and be like, I'll take 500 rounds of 5.56 and then swipe the credit card and not blink at the statement later.
Yeah.
Like now I have to be more accountable about where I'm putting my ammo. And during the group shoots are fun and I like having a fun time. But at the end of the day, if I'm lacking something in my training, then I need to put that as a priority for me personally. So I will go out and shoot by myself a lot and maybe bring like one dude to come out with me just to help me learn some stuff. So so it is definitely like a mindset thing nowadays where like I went and shot the comp, then I went and just had some fun out in like Sutton, and then I'm gonna come shoot with you guys. And I was like, I didn't like pennies count my rounds, but I kind of set aside like, all right, I'm gonna have fun with this ammo, and I'm gonna shoot the comp with this ammo, and like So, but
dude, I definitely feel that. I mean, like we're to the point now where like we kind of budget ammo through the company, so the company kind of buys ammo, but it's still like we're very much like, oh, this is expensive, and dude. it's not a like, we're definitely not Lucas from TRX Arms where we're our ammo budget's freaking amazing. It's definitely very like, can we buy this big
can we
bulk
pull
box
this off right now?
Yeah. Like, and we definitely timing wise just don't shoot as much as we used to be able to, but we actually just did a big like training day or a big range day with all the bros like 2 weekends ago for the first time in like it'd been like months, and it's just, so I definitely feel it. It's time and money is a big barrier sometimes.
It is, and it used to not be. That's also I think the struggle. I don't know when the ammo market's ever going to come down. 9mm started to get more affordable now, so I shoot my handgun a lot more than my rifle these days, just because I can go buy 1,000 rounds of 9 and make it last. But yeah, I mean, it sucks. I like having a good time with the dudes too, and shooting with them. But sometimes I'm like, I really encourage them. I'm like, hey, these group shoots are fun. Like, but if you're not shooting outside of these group shoots, I highly recommend you go shoot on yourself and find something to work on.
For sure.
And that's another aspect of the content I'm trying to push. Like, my Instagram died off for a little bit, so then I started throwing out more just like quick videos that are fun and just, that are cool to watch. And then once I get the engagement back up, I'm starting to bridge back into like the methodical process of shooting and drills and like,
nice.
If you're going to go out, here are the things you can do and here you can work on. And I feel like that's a lot of missing information for folks as they show up to the range and they're like, what am I going to work on today? And I think it's overthought. Like, people need to have like 8 targets and have this weird course of fire, and it's like, no, you don't need to do that.
No. Yeah.
Like, one drill I did with my buddies was just one target, and it's kind of like the AME 5.56 attack drill, slightly different. So it's a 9-round course of fire. Start out 25 yards, 1 IPSC, stationary, 3 rounds to the A zone. Move forward, you're going to shoot 3 rounds on the move between a window, so you have a start and a stop time in between the IPSC that you're allowed to engage your 3 rounds. And if you don't finish your 3 rounds by the time the stick comes up, like, you're done. And then you got to move to the last to the 10-yard line, and I think the 10 yards 3 rounds to the head box. Okay. And the way that's kind of broken down is you got 3 shots at distance. 25 yards is I wouldn't call that an astronomical amount of distance, but it's a fairly reasonable engagement zone. 3 rounds to the A zone, and then you're going to move up. And the way you can break that down is like, okay, I know I have to move, so how am I going to set up my feet? And that's one thing I always try to drive into people is like, if you're going to move, be intentional. And I see a lot of dudes step up to the line, they don't set up their feet, and it costs time because now they're having to break down their feet, you know, like dropping a step and taking off where like I draw and I shoot and I know I have to move. And so as I'm breaking my shots, I'm already leaning forward and putting some pressure into my feet. So as I break the last shot, I'm already taking off and I got the gun up, moving into the next position. So a lot of these simple drills, you can fine tune the small things that end up costing seconds off your time on other stuff. So just as a quick example.
Yeah.
And trying to pass that info to folks and be like, hey, you can take a simple drill and work on a lot of things.
For sure. Yeah, and you don't have to shoot a ton either.
No, you don't.
You know, you can do some really low round count stuff and get a ton out of it. I'd argue you can get more, especially if you're like really isolating certain skills. I think you can get more out of that than you can running like a big course of fire.
Yes.
I think the course of fire is where you validate things.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah, I would agree.
Bring it together, see what, like, okay, where am I lacking? Like, oh, dude, I suck on my first shot after moving or whatever. You know, I'm always punching the C zone there and things like that. And I think that's really where you can kind of bridge into competition a little bit. And yeah, if we'll take this opportunity to transition. So how did you get into the competition shooting? Because you're obviously doing Arctic Guardian. Do you do any other kind of competition shoots other than that? Or
yeah, I don't shoot a lot of competition, if I'm being honest. I try to do once a year, maybe twice a year. Because once again, ammo's expensive.
Yeah.
And the last thing I need to do is go to a USPA match and place 200-300 rounds of ammo once a week. Like, I can't afford that. So I use competitions as a way to validate, much like a course of fire, because that's what a lot of competitions are. So I try to shoot Arctic Guardian every year because that's always a fun and a great time, and it does carbine and a couple other things. And then I always try to do another shoot in July held at Fairbanks, at the Fairbanks Alaska Shooter. They hold it. It's their what's it called? It's basically their concealed carry match, essentially. Like it's an LE shoot where if you're LE, you carry your duty setup, and then if you're not LE, you carry concealed.
Oh, cool.
And so I try to shoot that match because that's pretty important to me too. Is out of the box performance from a cold start, because that is a true measurement of how well you process information and how well you can track your hits and shoot, and you can see how you stack up against other folks, and it's fun. So I don't shoot competition, no, but I try to go to competitions because it's a way to validate the things I've been working on, and to make sure that if I had to do something like outside of the range and actually deploy my firearm in a place where I have to use it, that I can perform to a certain level. Like, I think that's another scary thing is people carry their firearms, and you know, if they had to take a shot at 25 yards, can you do it in 3 seconds? Can you do it in 4 seconds? Is that time going to matter to you? Is it not going to matter to you, kind of deal?
Yeah.
And shooting competition can really tell you, like, out of the box, you know, because you don't get walkthroughs, you don't get to shoot it multiple times, you get one chance.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, and then there's the pressure of the competition as well,
Yeah, exactly.
which I think is beneficial. You know, put yourself in that position because it's something I would like to do more of. Obviously, there's not a ton of competition shoots in our area, which hopefully with our range that we're in the process of building, we're going to be able to kind of encourage that, I guess, community a little bit more and start making it more available. They do some stuff at Snowshoe, but I think it's, you know, it's kind of member only. So I don't know if I really want to make it that way, you know, because that's kind of, oh, you have to have a membership at the range in order to go do this competition shoot.
Yeah.
I think anyone should be able to come and do the competition shoot if they want. Yeah, so I think that's it's something that kind of gets you out of your comfort zone a little bit, and I think that's important too. That's another important, I guess, benefit of doing competition shooting.
yeah. And there's no, I don't want to say negative, there's no negative side effects to shooting USPSA or comps.
Yeah.
Like, if you go and do that, it will only make you better. I don't think it's going to make you a worse shooter, because people are like, it's not tactical and stuff. And it's like, I would argue actually the other, because you're tracking multiple targets of various sizes at various distances, and you're trying to figure out which ones you want to engage first. I'm like, you step into a room, you essentially are going to do the same thing, but maybe it's not for a time or against a part-time or anything. So,
But it's the time of your life.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just a giant misconception or just straight up myth that people unfortunately still either push or believe about like the whole, well, if you train competition, you're going to build bad habits because it's gaming. And it's like, no, it's shooting. It's shooting, and it's high performance shooting. You're having to move, you're having to make quick shots, you're being timed, you're working against others. Competition, you have the stress of like, am I going to look dumb out here? You know, and also like, am I going to suck, or, you know, or just that competition feel of like, I want to be the best out here.
Correct. Yeah.
Those are all good things. And yeah, I mean, you learn how to be safe while doing it too. I mean, yeah, there's, you know, you could argue that I used to do 3-gun stuff.
Oh yeah, cool.
When I was in the military on my part-time, I had a Mossberg 930, whatever, like it wasn't the Jerry Mickelark edition, but it was like kind of similar, and I put an extended tube on it.
Nice,
and I had my AR, and then I just had a Glock that I used for that. But yeah, and down there, I used to do it at Birchwood. Birchwood range, yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, you'd get some RSOs that were just hyper like whoa, you almost got DQ'd, and you're like, dude, like I'm going back to the holster and we're clear. Like I get it, but you know, so sometimes that stuff can be maybe a hindrance, but it's like anything. If you go into it with the right mindset and you just strip down like what you need to, you know, what's not necessary.
There's going to be rangeisms with anything that you do, like
exactly
in the training spectrum, I guess.
Even shooting on your own.
So it's like, can you compartmentalize that and be like, yo, obviously I'm not going to do this in a real life situation. And I think that's very doable. Like if you are a smart thinking human being, you should be able to do that. So
right. Yeah. Well, it's like, I think a lot of that is just excuse making. It's just a false justification to not put in the effort to do that stuff. Like, well, you know, I don't competition shoot because, you know, it'll turn you into you'll be running in combat like a IPSC shooter. And it's like, no, dude, you know, and same kind of goes with airsoft. It's like, well, you know, airsoft builds bad habits because they're slower than real bullets and they don't go as far. And it's like, no, like think about what you are gaining, you know, think about the other positives. Like, yeah, there's some drawbacks, but we can't actually shoot at each other for training. So,
right.
There, you know, and even sim rounds, I think there's this false idea that simunition's like this magical thing that is just like real bullets, but somehow you don't die. It's not. It's not at all.
It's honestly just like airsoft. In a way. Like
they don't have a lot of range. Like, yeah, they hit a little harder and they are a little more accurate and stuff. But and you can use real mags. You can use your gun. But man, airsoft, especially with just the quality of it now, it's insane.
Yeah, it's super crazy. And now you're seeing gun companies like BCM, like they're making licensed airsoft guns. And for the longest time, I mean, Colt would do it and a couple other companies, but it's really awesome to see it come mainstream. And kind of to circle back on something you'd mentioned, like airsoft wasn't really big when you were playing paintball, and that's because the guys over in Japan, Tokyo Marui, they were speccing airsoft guns so accurately, the real steel stuff, that they could not import them to the U.S. because then like they'd essentially be like importing firearms because the receiver specs were so like money tight.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that was a really big thing. And they were like the gold standard, like Tokyo Marui or TM is like the gold standard of airsoft guns. And it's really cool to see other companies start to evolve and start making things that are, you know, can cater a little more to the, to the people who like real guns but want to get into airsoft. But yeah, I mean, you can throw a lot of parts from real steel on the airsoft guns and kind of make it feel like it's semi-real. So
yeah. I mean, even those cheap ones that we got, like I was saying earlier, I mean, you can literally, any real component that you'd want to mount, you know, you can mount it, minus like a can, you know, or a suppressor, but
sure.
I mean, you can. We've definitely smashed our little training RC2 on there before, just like clamped it on, and if you look close, it's like sagging on the, you know, we were seeing if it'd work, but it's just a plastic muzzle device, so it doesn't actually work that good, but yeah, that was, I don't remember where we were going originally.
I think I threw a tangent in there because
we were just talking about competition shooting.
Oh yeah.
So like with the cost of bullets, obviously going through the roof, what do you think the benefit of dry fire training is?
I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I actually don't dry fire that often.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. The only dry fire I really do is from concealment, and I just practice a couple reps and some other things. I should dry fire more often. I know it's something I should do just to save some money and do some things like when I'm not shooting bullets. But to me, it's like the things I need to work on, the things that I want to work on usually acquire a reaction. Yeah. So for example, like on dry fire, you can practice getting reps building a sight picture. But what you can't practice is getting repetition of building multiple sight pictures from your gun recoiling, which is something I need to work on to shoot faster. So I'm like, well, I'm okay with my performance from the draw, but the things I need to work on require a reaction out of the gun.
Yeah, everything to the first shot is you've already got pretty crispy, so it's like everything past that point is what you feel like you need more work in. So
yeah, and I'm not making excuses for myself. A lot of the big wigs who shoot competition dry fire, and they're good for a reason. It's because they do dry fire.
Yeah.
But to the same point, I'm not. I don't want to say I'm chasing it, but I'm not trying to shoot to the same levels those dudes are. Not because I don't want to, but because I don't need to.
Yeah,
I guess
for
per
sure.
se.
Yeah, you're like prioritizing different things. Yep.
Correct. Yeah. So there are things I know I need to work on, and so I kind of try to track and chart like personally and mentally, like, okay, I need to work on this today, and that's how I make my range days more useful. And then you can confirm it with dry fire, like getting some movement around the house, or just getting some draws or getting some reps. But a lot of those things in dry fire for new shooters would be very beneficial. Practicing pushing the gun out, driving from the holster. Like when I got my new Alien Gear holster, I did dry fire for like 2 hours because I had a new piece of equipment. I'm like, I need to make sure I understand how this thing works. And then afterwards I was like, cool, I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean honestly, I'm pretty similar. Like I dry fire almost every day, but it's just the appendix setup, you know. And a lot of that is just to kind of get warmed up. Like, I don't want my
almost
first
like stretching.
rep. Yeah. I don't want my first ever rep to be like potentially having to send rounds at a threat,
Correct.
I want it to be at my mirror, every morning, making sure that the garment, kind of a validation of like the garments I'm wearing, can I clear them effectively and still get that like around a second draw stroke, but yeah, the dry fire alone of just like deployment is what helped me get to that more sub-second area from concealment, because that was something that took a long time for me to get to.
Yeah,
it was like, oh no, like how does everybody freaking do 0.87 or like even faster than that?
Yeah, I still stuck at that too. I don't think I could do a sub-second draw from appendix,
dude. It's I don't know if I could right now. I haven't trained like as far as live fire, I haven't done much out of appendix in a long time, but yeah, the also, I'm kind of a big picture guy. Like I like, I don't know, I guess call it the modern Minuteman, whatever you want to call it.
I dig it.
But I've really, like Steven and I collectively have been focusing a lot more on like with carbines. A lot of our training has been marksmanship, like beyond 100 yards or beyond 300, trying to make fast, accurate shots at farther distances, that more medium, intermediate range, even to some long range stuff. Being able to extend those engagements is valuable. And that's a whole other side of shooting, especially with light bullets, 5.56, kind of that SPR Mark 12 vibe kind of thing.
It's really trendy right now too.
Yeah.
It's the new hotness.
It is, but I've loved it for so long, but I'm glad that it's kind of dumb. I just recently built a Mark 12.
Oh, nice.
And like literally, we'll shoot it today, but literally like a few days ago, I bought all the stuff a while back, but just recently got to put it all together and go zero it and everything. But I've wanted one since like 2009. Like it's been one of those ARs that I've always loved, the Mark 12. But it's like anything, you feel like by the time you're able to finally do it, it's like, oh, you jumped on the bandwagon. It's like, I promise I've wanted to do it forever, but yeah, just being able to do that's kind of where we've been focusing recently. But getting, having things and being able to go and specifically work on those things is really important. But it takes away from, like you said, you don't necessarily need to chase like grand master level times and stuff like that, but you're still working on it because you might be working on this, but you're still training some of those things that would benefit you in those areas. So
I would almost argue that things like that could be negative training, the sense of it's good to have goals, but make sure your goals are lined up with the priorities that you want. Like recce's cool. Recce's the new buzz thing. People want to go out in the woods and wreck, like put on a backpack and go hiking in the woods. Like that's great. I support it. But at the same time is like, how long can you sustain that? Like if you're using that equipment, is it going to last you for however long you're going to be out in the woods besides looking cool for some photos on the gram? And so like air crew, I did SEER training. So, you know, we were in the field for like a week, and, you know, it's not like super challenging or super hard, but at the same time, you kind of like learn some physical capabilities that you can have. And let me tell you, if I myself am grabbing my SPR chest ring and put on a backpack because the world's crashing, I am not running to the woods. Like I'm not going to do that. It doesn't make sense to me. Maybe it makes sense to some others and you have a contingency plan, but I'm sure you guys know, like when you're a family dude, you got other people to care about. It's like, well, now can your wife hike that far? Can she carry things? Do you have kids? Are they going to make it that far?
Yeah.
The recce stuff is cool. It's not what I'm trying to focus on, but I know that, like I said, I carry my handgun every day, and my wife and I could be at the mall or something, which did happen. We were at the mall and an alarm went off, and I'm like, nice.
Yeah.
What's going on? It wasn't like we were at the Fifth Avenue Mall, and it wasn't a fire alarm, but an alarm just going off in the building and said evacuate. It didn't say fire alarm, and I tried looking in the news to see it was, and I think it was a fire alarm, but it didn't say like fire. Like it wasn't a distinguished fire alarm. It was just an alarm to evacuate the building, and I was like, that happened quick.
Yeah.
One day I'm in Victoria's Secret. Next thing you know, I'm in the parking lot with my handgun, like, you know, looking around. And one thing I think people should train, and I didn't mean to deter, but it's something I thought about, is shooting from vehicles. I don't train it a lot. A lot of people don't. It looks cool, but we should do it, because how often do we spend driving around, especially in Alaska, just chilling in your vehicle? And I was in this parking garage with my wife in the car, and we're sitting there waiting to exit it while the alarm's going off. And I'm like, we're sitting duck. I'm sitting in here in a car, like looking around the parking lot, like who's going to do what? Can I draw? Can I shoot through the window? There's cars stacked up in front of me. If I shoot forward, I'm going to dome somebody in the car in front of me. Like, I really think people should start thinking about shooting from sitting or like from a vehicle, because we spend a lot of time driving or in a drive-through or just in the most random places in traffic, you know?
Yeah.
So like I said, the recce stuff is cool. I definitely suck at shooting long range with my AR. I learned that the other day. I need to work on that too. But there are other things I think people should prioritize as well, and just being open-minded to making sure that whatever you need is what you need and not what is cool or trendy at the moment. And you know, shooting long range is trendy and cool, but is it going to help you? So
yeah, and again, it's all big picture stuff. Like practically, you know, we're not going to have our AR platforms on us. It's, you know, as far as how life is now. Yeah. You're going to have your CCW, whatever that is. Being able to shoot that at a very high performance level, and like you said, being able to shoot it beyond just like standing in your stance ready to go, like being caught off guard, caught with your pants down, literally. Like you might be in the stall of a bathroom, in a public bathroom, and have something crazy go down.
Dude, very true.
Where do you keep your gun? Is it, you know, that's always a weird one. Like we get asked all the time here. It's like, what do you do with that inside the waistband holster when you go to the bathroom? And it's like, well, I stick it in my pants. Like it's right there. It's similar draw, you know. Dude, if I ever had to just smoke somebody while sitting on the John, dude, that'd be wild.
Yeah, there's a new dry fire for you.
Yeah. You can definitely practice. That's one you should practice at home.
Yeah, we actually have a toilet at our range. No.
You guys put an outhouse out there.
Yeah, you're just in a public bathroom and you just hear. You're like, oh, what the heck?
Somebody's got a fire timer in there. Yeah.
Oh man,
been training for this moment for so long.
But yeah, I think the like the whole recce thing, it has gotten really popular out of nowhere. It's I think it's a big picture thing. It's like, it's something you should, you know, if you view the whole perspective of like, I want to help safeguard my family and my community. It's definitely not, all right, I'm disappearing off into the woods. But it's, I think a lot of that training, if you use it more from the perspective of like, this will build good fundamentals of just operations in general. And I think it just so happens that the woods is the best place to go do that. So eyes aren't like, what is happening? You know, you're not like downtown Soldotna just cruising around with a ruck on and, you know, M81, you're just like, but also there's a lot of things that, you know, you even looking back at history into like the original Minutemen, like practicing area denial and making outside perimeters to your community. So it's like, you don't even allow those things to enter your community because, and by, extension, you're actually you're more effectively defending your family. Because like a thing I always think about is my wife actually had never seen the movie The Patriot.
No, really?
Yeah. And I was like, what? Like how are you married to me and we haven't watched this movie? I love that movie. But so we watched it the other night, and I there's a lot I forgot about because I hadn't seen it in years and years and years. But I remember he was so reluctant to fight, I think for the right reasons. He was, someone who had already been to war. And I can kind of empathize with him a little bit. It's like he knew what combat was, understood it, and was like, I don't want this here. But he basically put his head in the sand, so to speak, for too long. And then there's that scene where he's literally, they hear cannons in the distance and all his kids are like grabbing muskets. He's like, put those back, you don't know what you're doing. Because he's like the protective father looking at his kids like, don't be naive. But then there's that moment where he's literally standing on his front porch and there's a firefight happening literally in his yard, in his yard, basically. And that scene, I forgot how like telling that scene was. You can see it in his face of like, it's too late. Like it's here, there's no stopping it, and I've messed up. Like you can see it in his face. And they captured that really well. And then, if you haven't seen the movie, spoiler, but one of his kids ends up getting, the British come the next day and are like, we're taking over your property.
Yep.
Because you're giving aid to the rebels, and, one of his kids ends up getting shot by somebody, and it's like, war is here, it's on your property, it's here, you've lost a child. And that's the sad reality of it. But that whole scene is just very telling of like being able to extend a defensive perimeter beyond your threshold, I think is good. So that's kind of how I view how people should be looking at those recce capabilities or those patrol, basic infantry tactics.
Yeah, and they're good to have, but if you also got to be rolling with a solid group of dudes you trust.
For sure.
That's the other big thing too. Is I like the dudes up north, but there's only so many of those dudes up north that I would trust with my family if I walked away. I mean, straight up. So, and that's other things people don't think about. A lot of those guys are single. So for them, it makes sense for them to want to roll together. Like that is their tribe per se.
Yeah.
But for me, it might be a little different. So
yeah. Having a family changes everything. I mean, that's your priority, ultimately. So, and again, going back to like daily carry, that informs that responsibility and changes things, I'm probably not going to stand in a gunfight when I'm with my wife and my kids. No. Like I'm getting them out of there. Like,
correct.
I'm going to do what I can. And if I got a shot, I'm going to do my best to end that situation. But there's no way I'm entering a gunfight with my family in tow. If I'm by myself, I might treat things a little different. And again, it's like I'm the father, I'm the man of the house, and I gotta be smart. I can't. If I want to help other people and protect them, and I think anybody that carries should have that mindset of like, I would want, if there was another dad or another man out there carrying and I wasn't with my family, I would want that man to hopefully protect my family. So I'm going to try to do that as well.
Right.
But there is a limitation of an understanding of like, dude, I got a family and, I'm going to do what I can do. But if they're with me, that my priorities are way different.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
And that's where I think being able to perform at a high level beyond what, I shoot twice a year and I shoot a box of ammo, and it's like, dude, can you be like that? What's that guy's name that made that 40-yard shot or whatever? Dylan.
Yeah.
Dylan, was that his name?
Where was that at? Like Michigan or something, right?
It was somewhere up north.
Yeah. But he shot that guy at like 40 yards, which is pretty impressive. That's a long shot with a pistol.
I think it was multiple shots too. It was like
6
out of 8 or something. Oh yeah,
or something like that. I don't know. We probably butchered it, but anyways, look it up. Just look up guy shoots somebody at 40 yards. It'll come up.
Way too many concussions between the two of us.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's not something that is just learned overnight. That's something that you have to work for. Anybody can be good at shooting, but you got to put in the work to do it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Speaking of like carrying stuff. So in Alaska, do you guys carry with a flashlight in the summer, like on your handgun or in your pocket? You do.
I just keep it the same.
You just keep it the same, yeah.
Not necessarily. For me, it's not really like, because I'm probably not going to deploy a weapon. I mean, I don't have a reason to use a weapon light in the summer here because, you know, for those that aren't familiar with Alaska, we have crazy light cycles where it's, you know,
unless you're like in a building.
Yeah, you could be in a building.
The lights are off
for sure, or like, you know, certain. Yeah, honestly, it's mainly just vehicles. And sometimes it's like overcast and it can get weirdly dark on you pretty quick. But I'm not a fan of like changing my setup. Like I basically have like my setup's a Glock 19. I got an X300 on it, a Trigicon RMR, and I rock that in an appendix in one of our Phantom holsters, and that's it. And I keep that the same, and that's how I rock and roll.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Why? What are your thoughts on it?
I changed my style up.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, my setup. So in the winter, when I have more layers, I'll put my X300 on, and then in the summer I take it off because I wear less layers and it's more concealable, and I carry a handheld instead.
Okay.
And I try to practice both, but mainly because like I forgot who saw it, but I read somewhere that if you're using a flashlight, it's probably best not to use the one on your gun because the perception it paints of like you walking around with the gun with the light on it, whereas if something's going on, you're searching, you can pull out a handheld and it looks normal. You're just searching around, you're not flagging people with your gun.
Yeah, we both always carry handhelds as well.
Yeah. Ooh,
so I guess I'm a double light guy. I 100% agree with you.
And so it's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like if something suspicious is going on, the last thing you want to do is be the dude walking around with a gun on the scene.
Yeah. What are you doing? It's my flashlight.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And then it's like, if you are searching with a light, like, can you deploy your handgun with one hand and be able to, once again, shoot accurately? And and that's one of those things that hit me in the face. Like,
yeah.
The answer is no. I should work on that.
Time to work.
Yeah. So
just
curious question.
Yeah. No,
that's a good question.
We're like a flashlight is part of my like a handheld. It's part of my EDC. It has been for years. I don't know how, like once you get in the habit of having one, I don't know how people do it without it. Like I use my flashlight all the time.
I know people use the one on the phone. I'm like, I can't see stuff. I'm like,
yeah. And they're like swiping and it's like they hit it and you're like, really? That's it? And then I pull out my Surefire and I'm like, you know, they're like, whoa.
Laser beams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's nice. I got a 5 lumen mode, you know, which works great for admin stuff, getting your keys out or like checking your shoe or, you know, whatever. And then, I got 1200 on board too with a heavier press. It's literally light press 5, heavy press 1200. And it's a penetrating, it's their tier lens too. So it's a penetrating lens and it's nice to have. But yeah, I think, I don't know. I like the idea of a flashlight on a gun more for like, I guess the mindset is like better to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. And I think there's some benefits like you add a little more weight underneath the front of your gun, which can be, it helps your gun shoot a little bit flatter, you know, sorta. But I like, you know, if you get in a situation where you do decide you have to start engaging a threat, you know, I want to be able to still have PID, positive identification, and after the situation's over, I want to be able to keep my gun up and still like scan and do some things in the dark that I can do just by holding the gun, I guess. So yeah, but
yeah, we're also some bigger boys, so
concealment
that's
true too. Yeah, I can hide a full size gun with a full size light with a, you know, all that pretty easily. But for a smaller frame, it would probably be harder to manage that all day.
I gotta wear some looser clothing, and I'm not usually a fan of that. It looks like I've got like kidney issues when I've got my Glock in my pants, and I've got this big bulge underneath my shirt. And stuff.
It's my colostomy bag.
Exactly, dude, that's exactly what it feels like. What are you looking at?
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. So what's your thoughts on taking classes, going and seeking training? You said you went down and that's how you met Steve. Yeah. So are you a fan of trying to get training, or do you mainly kind of self-train, or kind of a mixture?
Mixture. So if you don't know where to start, seek training, go take a class. And then the biggest pitfall people fall into is that they go and take the class from the same instructor because they like them. They're like, I'm going to go back, take your level 2, I'm going to take your level 3, I'm going to take all your class. And it's like, no, don't do that. And it's not because you don't like support your bros. If you know the person, like support them, sure, you know, fill up the class, help them out. But at the same time, every instructor has so much to offer in the shooting community that you should vary yourself and go learn what each individual instructor's bread and butter is. Some people may be better with the handgun, carbine, whatever, and they may have different opinions or like their own 2 cents on things they like to do it. So when I see people go take a class from an instructor and then they were like, "I was great, I'm going to do it next year," I'm like, why? You didn't you learn what you needed to? Like if your instructor did what they were supposed to, you ideally shouldn't have to go back unless you have questions, like hit them up, whatever, you need clarification. But once you take a class, like there's no point in taking it again because you should have learned everything the first time, hopefully, unless you need like a rehack or you take that and you run with it and go to the range and start developing yourself and focus on what you need to learn on. And I had learned that because I took a class from Steve and I was like, "Hey man, I'll take your class again." He was like, "No." He's like, "I'm going to be your friend. Like, don't take another class from me. Go take a class from somebody else and learn something different because you're only going to hear what I said last time and it's not going to help you."
Yeah.
And I've only taken a couple classes because I needed some real work done. But afterwards, I kind of became self-sustaining and, you just start picking up the things you need to work on. And the other thing with taking classes, too, is it's a class environment. So there's other folks with you. And you may not get the attention you need to get something fixed. It may get glossed over or you may just be like so nervous that maybe you don't speak up, So taking private classes is cool too if you can do that. But overall, man, like the really big range days where they have like 20, 30, 40, 50 people out. And, to me, that's just a publicity stunt. I don't think you can get effective training from instructors at cadre when you got 50 dudes and like 5 instructors and you're out there working with, 10 dudes each. It's a great way.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It's a great way to network and meet dudes for sure. But you couldn't pay me to go take a class like that. Unless someone can slide me a DM and be like, "Here's why, and here's what I learned," and I'll change my opinion. But you should go take 1 or 2 classes, learn what you need to, and then go work on yourself and be done. And then if you need, like, I don't know night vision very well, so I'm going to go take a night vision class because I need help with that. Like, I know how to shoot under night vision. I know how to point a laser, but there's more to it than just that, so I'll take a night vision class. But I've taken, like, an entry-level pistol and an entry-level carbine, and I've taken, like, 1 intermediate pistol, and that's pretty much all the classes I've taken, I think. And if you have the money to go spend on it, do it. But in Alaska, there's a couple of good folks to take it. Like I think Phalanx Academy sounds pretty good. I've met Joe just yesterday at Art of Guarding. He was out there. I know Amy 556 does a lot of good stuff too. I haven't taken one of her classes, but I like to just to see what she has.
I didn't know she ran classes.
Yeah, she does run classes. I think she's going up to Fairbanks in July to host a private class for some of the dudes up there who asked for her to come. So she does teach, and she does some like instructors level classes and other things too. So she's out there doing good stuff. And I know Alaska Tactical's out there. I don't know much what they're about, but there's some good places. And then obviously everybody down north, there's only 1 million people you take classes from. Yeah. And then obviously vet your instructors too. Like, I have taken 1 class, my very first class ever. I took from an Army Braille vet, and it was the worst experience of my life.
Oh no.
Hands down. I think I spent like $400, went and took his class, and he made us do drills that I was like, why am I doing this? Our targets were like pieces of wood, like human silhouette shaped pieces of wood, 2 of them.
What?
And we weren't checking hits. We weren't doing anything. He was just having me blast, and he was yelling at me like, stand up, go down, like smoke drills. And he'd be like, reload. And I'm like, I could have done this at home, dude. Like, I paid you $400 for you to smoke me. I'm like, no.
Dang, that's messed up. That's so random.
Yeah, and
that stuff's out there though. Like,
it is out there.
It's actually out there more than the good stuff.
It is
by a landslide.
And people think that is the good stuff.
I know,
and that's scary. So
that's funny. I mean, that sucks, but that's funny.
Yeah.
Have you taken one of Joe's classes, the Phalanx Academy?
No, it's. I want to go take his night vision course. So that's kind of what I was hinting at, I guess. I haven't taken his pistol or his carbine courses, but you kind of get to a point where like you maybe really don't need those courses. So
yeah, actually I've known Joe for years.
Have you?
We actually used to shoot together all the time when I used to live up in Anchorage. But I've really wanted to go take, now that he's started Phalanx Academy, I've really wanted to go take some of his classes and check him out and see how it is. I haven't talked to him in a long time. I actually was just trying to catch up with him recently. I was like, hey man, you got time for a phone call? And he was like, no, next week. I was like, okay, next week. And then I was like, sorry dude, I'll get you at the beginning of next week. And then it just hasn't happened. I need to, time just freaking goes, dude, and busy. Everyone's busy, but I need to follow up with him. But he's definitely someone that I would recommend from what I know of him. I know he knows his stuff, and it looks like he's doing some pretty cool things with that company. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then Alaska Tactical, I actually, one of the first companies I ever took classes from way back in the day. And back then it was pretty old school. It was like Weaver shooting. Like, they didn't force you, but they were very much like, you will shoot Weaver. And I was like, I shoot modernized isosceles. And they're like, what is that? You know, but now they have, you know, they have like, they've grown with the times, and they have instructors that are squared away. And I've trained with some of those guys, not in a Alaska Tactical class, but just some of those guys on the range, and they're solid dudes.
Nice.
So yeah, and then yeah, there's quite a few companies that are pretty good. I think here in Alaska, which is nice to have. But I would love to go train with Amy 556 as well. We've talked to her a little bit, like through Instagram. She'd be fun to have on the podcast. I'd love to hear how she got her start, because
Yeah.
it's pretty cool how popular she's become, you know. And yeah, she's got some cool drills too. Like, some of her printable targets and stuff are pretty awesome. But you talked about a cold start, or a standards drill, maybe.
Yeah. So I have like my Ty907 cold start, and I'm a little, I don't want to say based, but I have my opinions about cold starts. And basically,
let's hear 'em.
Oh yeah, let's get into it. So cold starts, man, like, my biggest thing is like the paper cold starts are cool and they're great, and printable targets are awesome because now you can disseminate training into people for free at their home computer, and I think that's great. But what I don't like is people get caught up in these cold starts because you can win things. They're like, I got to beat the par time, I want the sticker, I want the patch. I'm like, no, slap. Like that's not what this is about. It's just it's a metric of performance.
Yeah.
And I started my cold start because I wanted people to shoot for themselves and test their own stuff and develop their own par times. And the Coursifier it's all kit. So put on your belt, put on your plate carrier, and it's rifle and pistol. So you do standing, I think we did it like 15 yards. You do 5 body shots, reload 3 body shots, transition, pistol, 5 shots body, reload 3 to the head. And then you stop, wait for the follow-up beep, and on the follow-up beep, you holster your pistol, and then you reload your rifle and do 1 shot to the head to follow up. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted people to get lost in the sauce. I wanted there to be long strings of fire where people get so focused that everything else, they forget about it. And it's really more of like a mental exercise, because when I had people shoot this drill, they go out there and they shoot through 5, and then they do 3, and then they're like, what am I doing? I'm like, I don't know, man, you tell me. You're looking at, like, I gave you the drill, why'd you stop? And they're like, I don't remember what I'm doing. I'm like, yeah, because you got lost. You got sucked into the scope. And then they're like, okay. And then there are other dudes who are like, do their 5, they do their reload 3, go to the pistol, and on the secondary beep, they go to do the bolt lock reload from their belt, and they're like, where's my mag? I'm like, I don't know, man. You got 3 of them on your plate carrier, though. I bet you one of those will work. And they're like, oh, that's right. And then they pull out of their plate carrier. And the shooting aspect was not so much to test the marksmanship as it was to test your mental capacity to remember tasks and remember where your stuff is at on your kit. And the reason why there's no par time is because people are going to go out there with the preface of, I have to beat this time, and they're just going to blaze it down. I'm like, no, that's not the point. There's not a par time because it's based off of your skills.
Yep.
If you go out there and shoot and you're doing this in 20 seconds, then that is your par time, and that's what you use to measure yourself.
Yep.
And then if you start getting better than that, then you move it down. And then you decide, like, what did I do better? What did I do worse? And it really just kind of starts self-isolating things in your kit. So that was really the big takeaway from it, is I didn't want people to get so focused that they wanted to just blaze it down that they're at home practicing this cold start so they can go out to the range and get it done and be like, what do I win? You win my respect.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I would shake your hand if I could. So here's the handshake emoji.
Yeah. Nice.
So
Yeah, that's fantastic.
yeah, that's my view on cold starts, and I've been wanting to put a video on that for a while, and I just never haven't gotten around to it. It's time consuming, but
Yeah.
I want people to test their kit, because I hate when dudes show up to the range and they're like, oh, look at my new Gucci gear. I'm like, that's a nice, dude. I love your FCPC or your freaking tactical tailor admin, well, like whatever gear you're rocking. But if it doesn't help you and you can't perform with it, then it's a hindrance.
Right.
So here's how you can measure that stuff, whether you like it or not. And a lot of dudes started changing their equipment afterwards, because like, oh, I didn't like the way my mag was facing. I didn't like it on the belt. I didn't like it on the plate carrier. I have too much tools in the way. Like, can you get to things when you need it, and can you remember where they're at?
Yeah.
That was the big thing for me.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I like the perspective on that, and kind of the, no part time. I agree with that. I think that's awesome that you set it up that way. Yeah, it sounds similar to Redback One's drill. Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, their operator drill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a better version of that, but
I'm glad you said better.
Yeah.
It's like the same version. I'm like, I guess I didn't get what I did done. Yeah, man, it's really cool.
No, it just reminded me of it because they, it's a lot of different things, and it's very set up to kind of make you be like, oh, like, yeah, you forgot to top off, do your tack relay. I don't even remember what theirs is, but it's a lot of kind of like steps and doing different things out of your kit. And it's, again, also supposed to be in full kit. And so,
it's a good way. That's like just like getting out and doing anything with your gear. Like, you got to actually run it in order to figure out like what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Right.
Like, we always say that all the time. Like, yeah, you can sit there and watch like your IG influencer or your YouTube influencer and like, oh yeah, I just want to do exactly what Grantham's got. And it's like, yeah, that works for him because he's been running it that way for years and years and years. Now you go out and try it, and if it works for you, then cool, freaking run with it. But if not, then you might want to change it up because
exactly.
Just because he does it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. You know,
people get really lost on that. It's a good way to start, like figuring out what you want, but is it what you need though? Kind of deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we say it all the time, but we say buying it's the easy part. Like, everyone always wants to know, like, we get asked constantly, like, what is that? Like, we'll post a picture of something and they're like, what's that chest rig? And it's like, well, this is what it is. And like, okay, cool. And it's like, but where are you? Like, what's your use case? Like, are you, it's not, unfortunately, it's not as simple as like a cookie cutter thing. Like, I bought this, and this, and now it just sits in my tote in my garage. It's like, no, you need to, it's tough. You have to buy stuff, and I've bought a lot of stuff that I was like, I hate it.
Yep, me too.
And money's gone now, and it is what it is. And you're always kind of like, well, I can sell it, and then some stuff you just can't sell. It just doesn't. I have so much crap that's just thought I'd be able to sell it, never could, still have it, don't ever use it. It just sits there.
I must have like a million holsters in my house right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same. I've got just a litany of random Blackhawk Serpa holsters and weird stuff like that, dude. But yeah, and that's just the way it goes. And I think buying stuff, never validating it, is bad. And then additionally, on top of that, buying stuff and then trying to just force it to work because you're financially attached to that is a problem as well. If something sucks, ditch it, because like you said, it's a hindrance.
Yeah.
So
airsoft's really great for that too, going out and playing in full kit, and like you're getting prone, getting in weird positions. Like I used to run this med kit underneath my pouch, underneath my front flap, but it just pushed me too far off the ground, and it was getting really weird. So I took it away, and I'm like, I don't want this med kit here, and I moved it somewhere else because I was playing airsoft and I tried to go prone. I'm shooting around like a little barrels, the port's like this high, and I'm like, I can't get low enough. I'm like trying to get around all these crazy angles, and it's like, all right, this is done. So
Yep. Yeah, I always tell people, like, if you're going to buy like a plate carrier or something like that, or some kind of new piece of kit that's something that you would have on or be using a lot, literally just do like household tasks in it.
Dude,
like put it on and do your laundry. Like go up and down the stairs, like clean,
wear it for
change the sheets on your bed. And like, it's not, plate carrier is specifically, to use that example, plate carrier is not something you just throw on and you're 2 hours in the range and you're like, this thing's sick. It's like, wear it all day and do weird stuff in it. Like, get in your car with it and drive around.
Dude, it's a huge one.
And you'll start to learn quick that, like, I've had customers come in. We've talked about that before on the podcast, and we've had customers come in that are like, I hate you guys. I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, I listened to your podcast on plate carriers and plate carriers and body armor. And, I started doing stuff. I thought my plate carrier was awesome, and I started doing stuff, and then I now I hate it. And I'm like, oh, sorry, dude. And he's like, but I bought this one, and it works better. I'm like, okay, cool.
Nice, that's good.
But, yeah. What you got?
No, nothing.
Oh, no, okay.
So if we're good with I don't know. I mean, do we got any other tips for training techniques as far as like, I mean, obviously we got cold starts, dry firing training, airsoft, competition shooting.
Yeah.
So as far as getting more involved community wise, you said that there is an airsoft league in Fairbanks.
Yeah, there's a couple. There's Interior Airsoft Alaska, or like something along those lines, and they've got a field right off the highway, and they, you pay $20 and go play for the day. do whatever. And then the other one's Alaska Family Airsoft, and they do their field at their house. So the guy Dirk who owns the place, he's super nice dude, like doesn't charge a dime because his biggest thing is getting people to play. So mad respect to him because he's running like this nonprofit. He's got rental guns and the whole nine, does it at his property. And I'm like, dude, you do that for free. I'm like,
that's sick.
You could pay me and I still probably wouldn't want to do what you're doing. So mad respect to him because he's getting all sorts of dudes out. Like he's getting kids, he's getting Army guys. Like he hosts events for, I think he had like the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts out there so they could go play. And so he's doing some awesome work, and his field is just right on his house. He went and real big community guy, and like had people volunteer to come clear his property. We moved trees, brush, all sorts of stuff, brought in like barrels like oil drums and all sorts of plywood, and put up a sweet little course on the back of his house, and you just show up on the weekend and go play. So
That's super cool.
yeah.
And you said that there wasn't much of one in Anchorage from what you could tell.
Yeah.
Because you got people from Anchorage coming up to Fairbanks to do it.
That's correct. I think there's some guys out in Anchorage, and I actually don't know any of the dudes in Anchorage that play airsoft up there. I haven't met them, or if I did, I totally forgot. And no, I look like an ass. But when I was playing really heavily, we always thought Anchorage was the big place because you have more people. Like there's more people down here, so you think naturally that's where most of the population's at that want to play airsoft. And we couldn't find anybody. You'd think like the Army guys would want to do it, or like a lot of the like people who are in the guns would want to play airsoft, and we just couldn't find anybody. So that's how our community started growing, and then the guys from down there started coming up to us. And I haven't bothered to look too much into what's actually down here, but there used to be an airsoft retail store down here, and it closed. So.
Yep.
Whereas like the one in Fairbanks is still kind of growing strong. He's got a pro shop with his field, the guy who runs Interior Alaska Airsoft. So
nice. So it's definitely an area that I feel like I don't think we have one down here on the Kenai Peninsula that I know of.
No.
It's definitely something that I would, if someone was interested in doing, I would definitely love to know about it and see if I could help wherever we could help, but and I would definitely want to be involved if that was the case. That'd be cool. So something we could push into. But even if you're outside the state and you're listening, I mean, there's airsoft leagues everywhere, and there's also like the big milsim get-togethers that have been happening. So if you can afford to travel, that's a cool thing too, because I think that's like a multi-day event usually.
Yeah.
Is it American Milsim? Is that what that's called?
There's two. There's Milsim West and American Milsim. Milsim West are like the hardcore dudes. Those are the guys that, though they are ran by your prior soft guys, like they're Ranger battalion dudes, and they go out there and they give you maps and grid points, and then they incorporate blank fires into it too. So you can show up as a blank fire guy and put on a BFA and go shoot blanks at people, and they have blank fire ROEs to like mix in the realism, and then you can also be like the platoon leader, and then you can be like a mortar team and some other crazy stuff, and like. It's really involved, and there's no going back to your car. Like you bring sustainment gear and that's it, and you can pillage bodies. So as you come up on a team and you shoot them, if they got ammo on them, you can take their ammo and move on with your life.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So are they they're running like the laser tag system basically then for that, or no?
No laser tag system. I think it's just straight up blank fire, and then if you're in line of sight of a dude with a blank fire gun, then you honesty policy call the hit and be like, oh, I'm dead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So. I wasn't sure if they're running like what you run, like JRTC.
Like Miles Gear.
Yeah, Miles Gear. Yeah.
No Miles Gear.
Just so dumb, dude.
Yeah. Dude. And they've got like hardcore like kit lines are like, this is the gear you have to bring. This is the uniform you're wearing. And then Milsim West is a little looser. Not Milsim West. American Milsim's a little looser where you can show up with your friends, and it's still the same environment. It's just not like hardcore like 72 hours straight. It's like, you can go play, go back to your car and do some other things, and then my buddies and I, we used to fly down to go to the CQB events at like indoor fields, because that's nothing we never had up here. So we'd go buy plane tickets to California. We'd go play at places like Game Pod, which is like the largest indoor airsoft field in the United States. It's like an acre or two big.
Oh, wow.
Warehouse, and they got buildings and everything set up in there. And their events are pretty big, and we just play pickup games, and then a couple other outdoor fields too. So then go to the big airsoft retail stores, because it's like Walmart for airsoft guns. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
That's super cool.
Yeah, there's huge communities down there, and it's only getting bigger. So
yeah, well, that's awesome to see. I think that Milsim West sounds sick. It'd be fun to go do.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do a Milsim West event.
Yeah. And
I've watched some videos like dudes rock their helmets and they got GoPros on, and they provide nods. So there's nighttime strikes, and they will like I want to say it's TNVC will go out there and they'll lease nods out, so you can rent nods for the day if you don't have them, and you can shoot under night vision. And I think some dudes are rocking like thermals and IRs out there, so you could have night vision and think you're the coolest dude on the block until you get domed by a guy with an IR device who saw you coming like, you know, from miles away.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, these guys are advancing, and they just like bury themselves in the bush and wait. So yeah, man, it's pretty cool. I think it'd probably kick my ass. But
it'd be such a learning experience, I think. Yeah. So it's 72 hours straight. Like it's like you're sleeping out there in like patrol bases and stuff.
Yeah, you're like straight up field camping, making your shelters, digging foxholes, you know, digging out your poncho, string line it across your foxhole, doing fire watches, and it's the whole thing. So
dude, it's a straight up field X, dude.
It is. It is almost straight up a field X. So, but
that's crazy.
It's ran by real good guys. Who, you know, like
except not lame. The Army's like, all right. Recite the Soldier's Creed. No.
Inject.
Yeah, it's so dumb.
Oh man. So and then as far as competition shoots, I'm sure every area is a little different, but I don't know if they like. I think you just have to be involved in whichever organization's running it to know like where they're having them and whatnot. I guess I don't really know how that works because, like I said, I don't do enough of them. So
the easiest way to do it is get the Practice Score app, and the Practice Score app will show you all the registered competitions in your area, and you can sign up through the app and show up. So that's how I've done it in the past, and that's how they review all the scores and everything. So you sign up a Practice Score, and they tell you where everything's at. But I will say, like in Fairbanks, you have the FAST community, Fairbanks Alaska Shooter, and they always do Tuesday night matches, and they're pretty regimented. Like Tuesday night, they're having a match, and it's always handgun. And then down here, I think they have the out at Birchwood, they've got matches out there too. And I know that's where Amy shoots, and they do like steel matches and everything else and 2-gun. I think they got a little more going on for them. But Practice Score will show all that stuff out for you, and then you can just sign up on there. So that would probably be the easiest way. But other than that, there isn't like a big, like, I didn't even know they existed. Someone had to tell me, like, there's shooting competitions, be word of mouth, and tell me to download the app in order for me to go. Some people have Facebook pages, but it's kind of the same thing we touched on earlier with people who run classes, and they don't have a social media presence. They're just not really engaging people, and so they're like, put a Facebook post out, but no one's following their Facebook page, so no one sees it, and they think that they're like, no one follows me on social media. And it's like, well, it's because you don't engage with the people. And I think social media has been a blessing and a curse all at one, because now people don't do things word of mouth because they expect you to be on social media. Practice Score.
Okay, so whenever we start hosting competition stuff, we'll have to make sure we're signed up or involved with that. I had never heard of that before until just now.
Yeah, so that's how you can sign up.
Cool. Yeah, all the competition stuff I did, I was a member of the range, and I found out they did it, and I just started showing up, you know. But I haven't done it in years.
Which is another way to do it, but you know, that's obviously another way to do it.
Go to your local range and see if they have it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because they'll have flyers or whatever up, you know, like, hey, we're doing this Saturday or whatever. So, and then we kind of talked about classes, taking classes from other people. We kind of got your 2 cents on that. Like, take classes from multiple people, get different perspectives. But I think the main thing, and you mentioned it as well, and me and Jacob preach this all the time, is, you know, take homework home with you.
Right.
Take, you know, hey, this drill really kicked my butt. Like, I'm gonna work on that back at home. Like, that's one of the biggest benefits of taking classes from different people, is you're seeing different things. Like, oh yeah, that's a super cool drill. Let me take that home. Like, yeah, it didn't burn that much ammo, and it still worked on a lot of things. Or, you know, if ammo's not an issue, then some of those drills will spend some money, and if you can spend money, then go for it. But yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things from going to classes, actually being willing to, you know, take notes if you can take notes, and bring some of that home with you, and then also share it with your buddies if you got buddies that you're shooting with. And that's a way to kind of divide and conquer, is, you know, if you have like kind of a group of guys that you shoot with, send them to different classes, and then all come together and kind of share the information, share the wealth.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I didn't think about it like that. Like, sending dudes out to different classes instead of like, oh, we'll take in the same class. And I mean, that would be fun too. But
I think there's benefit to sending multiple people to the same class, because obviously, like me and Jacob, like we learn kind of the same, but there's certain things that he'll pick up on that I don't pick up on, and there's certain things I pick on. Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely benefit to sending multiple, but if you can spread it out, then that's a cool way to do it, you know?
Yeah. That's how I started teaching a lot of my guys I shot with was I went and took one class and I learned a bunch of things and a bunch of drills, and I'm like, I'm taking this home. And I think that's kind of honestly how I jump started things. I took a lot of the drills Steve taught me and I started running my guys through it, and then they're like, oh wow, that was awesome. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty awesome, isn't it? Yeah. So
I didn't know he ran classes.
Yeah, so he at Ripcord, there's Ripcord Industries and Ripcord Training Group.
Actually, we follow them. Yeah.
Yeah. But when he was doing that, he was just doing them privately. And I reached out to him and was like, hey, do you teach classes? So, and like I said, he was at T-Rex Arms at the time, and they were, I think, trying to do classes to some capacity, but it never really took off because of timing. Yeah. And then he wanted to do the same thing when he went to Ripcord, but then, he was just a single man running the ops and was like, I'll have the time when I can. And so he caters a lot more to the mill LE side.
Okay.
And teaching like SWAT teams and stuff. Cause I mean, that's
kind of where his background's from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those are the dudes he wants to help. So
yeah.
Yeah, you're passionate in that area, so that's what you kind of lean into.
Yeah.
So then for like, our audience, it's like, well, I'm just by myself, so I guess I'm just going to have to spend a bunch of money and, I just can't, I can't afford to do that. It's like, all right, well, if you're being involved in some of these areas that we talked about, like if you're going to airsoft leagues, if you're going doing competition shooting, if you're just going to the range, be someone that's I guess a cheerful person, a happy person, someone that
a genuine person.
Yeah, be genuine, and meet some of the people that you're doing this stuff with, and you may just find your best friend, your long lost best friend, in these circles. So
yeah,
I think there's so many people that come into our shop, and we got the benefit of owning a storefront, so obviously it's a little easier for us to find people to go out and shoot with because we constantly have people coming through our doors.
Yeah.
So we have that benefit, and it's a blessing. But yeah, I think just being involved and being willing to meet people and share information if you have information, and also be willing to learn from people that do have the information. That's a way to find kind of your group.
Yeah, for sure. And I know people struggle with finding a group of dudes to shoot with. And yeah, going to comps, you will find a lot of people who have the same mindsets as you.
Yeah.
So like going to Arctic Guardian, I met several dudes that lived in the Fairbanks area. I was like, dude, I didn't know you existed. Like, I didn't know you were around. I didn't know what you're doing. Like, I met a guy who was an Apache pilot, and he was like, hey man, I want to come shoot with you. I'm like, oh, likewise, like I'd love to come shoot with you. And you just kind of network that way. Yeah, going to comps, man, like going to comps, and I'm an introverted dude, so it's hard for me to want to be out there and like socialize. It drains the crap out of me. But
yeah. Oh dude, I'm the same way.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just one of those things you gotta, like, if you want it, you gotta want it, and go out and talk to some guys and network. And honestly, you can only get good things out of it. And either you learn like the group you went and shot a comp with, or dudes you don't want to hang out with, so you go somewhere else. So you learn that they're guys you want to hang out with, and then you start training with them, and they teach you things. And
yeah, just another way too is something I just thought about. I mean, just because you're sitting here with us doing this podcast, is like social media is a great way to meet people too. Like
100%.
I mean, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation if it wasn't for social media. So it's pretty crazy. Yes, you're in Alaska, but like you said, you're multiple states away. Like for the lower 48 folk. What is it, like an 8-hour drive down here?
Yeah, 8-hour
to
drive.
Anchorage, right?
It's I think 6 to get to Anchorage, another 2 hours along the Seward Highway to get to you guys.
Okay,
so
it's not as
he's got his foot down. He's got that heavy foot.
Yeah, and then Tacoma, and to get 55 miles an hour out of that thing, just smash it, dude. That thing's a dog.
Oh, I know, dude. I know the struggle. I'm just like, well, how does this thing get such poor gas mileage? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, so, I mean, that's pretty cool. Like, we're going to obviously go, I think we mentioned it, we're going to go shoot after this recording, so.
For sure.
Just more community growth, so. And I think it's pretty cool, but I don't really know where I was going with that.
That's all right. Social media is a powerful tool. That's kind of what I got from that. And same thing for me. Like, I got my start because I met Steve through Instagram, and then I just went and flew out and took a class, and then everything took off from there. So, I mean, sometimes being on there can be helpful, as much as I hate being on Instagram. But I don't even remember how I ran into you guys. I think someone shot me a message just like, hey, do you guys know Dynamic Defense? I'm like, who? And they're like, Dynamic Defense Solutions. I'm like, oh man. And then they shot me your guys' page, and I think I ended up starting following you guys, but I honestly don't quite remember how I got down here. And then last year I was on a fishing charter, and I came in swinging and with some of my coworkers, and we come and say hi so I could put some faces to the company. But
yeah, sorry about that, by the way, because you guys came by and I was like, nice, and then I was like, come on back, and then literally I just get smashed by customers.
Yeah, dude, I remember that.
And I was like, oh,
It's all good.
Hold on a second. And then I had to go up, and then it was like, I was hoping it'd be like a quick interaction, and then it was just like, yeah, you know, some guy was just, you know, parking it, and then you guys came back out, and you're like, we gotta go, and I was like, oh, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
I felt bad. I was like, dang, but
yeah, but
it's
I
cool
mean,
that you made it back down.
Even doing that, my coworkers walked in there and they're like, "That was not your normal gun store. That's not what I pictured at all." And when they walked in, I was like, "Yeah, man, because they carry different stuff. Like it's not going to Alaska Ammo and it's a bunch of, you know, freaking hunting rifles and."
Yeah,
you know, the guys are at the counter like, oh, well, you know, we carry this ammo and you want to shoot these loads and these grains. And, you know, I guess you could have this Anderson lower. It's a really good deal. I recommend it to everybody. And it's like,
have you heard of Canic?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah. So,
no, we only carry stuff that we believe in. So,
and that's awesome. And had I known you guys were down here, I totally would have been buying more stuff for you guys because you carry a lot of things that I was like, man, Mod Light's out of stock, and I can't buy a Mod Light button or I can't buy this head. And I came in the store, I was like, you guys had it? I'm like, oh, I could have supported local and got what I needed.
Yeah, I'm trying to get all that added to our website. It's websites are they just take so much time, and I do it all, so it's like I gotta, you know, it's funny. Steven will be like, dude, you need to work on the website.
No, dude, you've done good lately. Like anyone that's been on there recently, like go on there. If you haven't been on there for a while, there's a lot of new stuff on there. But I mean, it's still not very much. Like
I feel like I go into a time capsule. Like I'll be like working on. It'll be like a whole day of work in here, like 10 hours, and then I'm like, I got 3 products done. I'm like, no, because you know you want to pictures, you got to edit them, you got to add them, you got to have a description,
you got to have all these rules in order for it to like work for
there's all the back end, like when this item's selected, it changes the cost, and like you have to do all that, and it's just like, ugh. And I'm not a computer guy. Like it's all been out of necessity.
Self-taught.
Yeah, it's just like, oh crap, I got to learn how to do this because I can't afford to pay somebody to do it.
It sucks. Like I was helping Steve do his website, and we have a build gallery on there, and I always pitch that to people because people are like, I don't know how to build a rifle. I'm like, if you go to the build gallery, bunch of guns, take them for inspiration. We got photos, you got parts. We list the parts to use so you can go find them.
Yeah.
And I remember I was working that with him, and it was just so time consuming. I took all the photos, I edited them, getting them on the website, and making sure it didn't screw up anything else, just out of the weirdness of how the website algorithm works. It's like, if you upload this photo, this item's going to show in stock, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
No, we don't want that. And then if you deselect it, it's like, well, now your photo's gone. And you're like, I just want the photo there, and you put the photo back up, and it's like, you've changed 8 different items on your camera, and you're like, oh no. The website.
You add a photo gallery, and your home page is like 404, page not found.
Exactly, dude.
Like,
and you're like, yes, yeah. I'm like,
how did that happen?
Yeah. So it's pretty convoluted.
For sure.
Yeah, so I guess how we're going to end this thing is we're going to do a little bit of it's not going to be as great for all the non-Alaskan listeners, but this is going to be kind of a little call out for all the Alaska folk that are kind of in this scene. But you know, obviously, me and Jacob, we're always willing to have people reach out. Like if you feel like, man, I just cannot find people. Like, and I'm sure you're the same, Ty. Just feel free to reach out, and we just want to like kind of start bringing people together. You know, whether it's, you know, your business if it's a business related, it's like, man, I just don't think that there's enough people out here to support this industry. Like there shouldn't be like this huge like, oh, like they're taking business from me. It's like, dude, then do better. It's like, if you're really that worried about it. But yeah, I think ultimately, like, we should all be on the same side, and we shouldn't be, you know, and I guess this would be for other states as well, but I think for up here especially, I think it could be really, really smooth for Alaska. I think we have something special up here. I think there's so many good people doing great things right now up here, and I just want to continue to push into that and continue to grow and kind of build the Alaska community to be, you know, strong.
Agreed, man. It's come leaps and bounds. I've started shooting like all the people I've ran into, all the social media pages you guys have in a storefront. Like there's just all sorts of good things happening right now, and I hope it continues and folks decide to reach out. And you know, my DMs are always open. I've got like all 2 people texting me every day in there. So I promise if you text me, I will reply, or DM me or whatever. To come shoot and come hang out. So 'cause I'm pretty much at the Fairbanks, Alaska shooter range in Fox like every week, like once a week at least. So
nice.
Yeah, and then trying to come down here and do more things too.
Yeah, it was awesome that you came down. We're stoked to hit the range and do a little shooting.
Yeah, man, me too.
I guess kind of like another question I had in relation to this as we kind of wrap up. what do you think? I guess to piggyback off of what Steven said, what do you think would be good places to start on like building a more cohesive gun community, and like how can people kind of prop each other up rather than tear each other down? Not that that's happening, but just, going more than that positive direction rather than a more negative or like isolated direction.
I think a lot of that's just going to be mainly engagement, like with other folks. So, I mean, I wish I could have come down here any time of the day to just come hang out with you guys, but I can't. But trying to be able to be purposeful about how you spend your time and trying to engage with other folks and going to competitions and networking. Like, I think networking is going to be the biggest thing. Like, if you're in the Fairbanks area and you want people to shoot with, don't just hold to yourself and be like, no one wants to come shoot with me. Like, I don't know, like go out there, Google things on social media, like look at the ranges. And I think if we could start coming together more often, like whether or not I try to come down here once a year and bring some dudes with me, or you guys come up with us, and like, really trying to get, like just more folks together. And like I said, the training, like if we go out there and there's 30 of us trying to shoot on the range, we may not get a lot done, but we got a lot of networking in with each other and talking to each other, making friends, making connections, and then trying to be able to take that elsewhere and just kind of start like connecting the dots on the circle. Like, I would have never thought several years ago that someone was like, you're going to go down to Soldotna, there's some awesome dudes down there, you're going to do a podcast with them. I'd be like, why am I going to be in Soldotna, man? Like, I got nothing to do down there. Yeah. Yeah. Or like no one, like because of social media, and probably social media too, like you don't need to be posting good content, but if you're posting work and it's just on your phone and someone recognizes that, then boom, you've made a friend in the area. And or like I've got folks that I know in California and Texas or Florida that if I'm ever down that way, I'm gonna try and go train with them, So yeah, I think engagement, really, if you can. It's a lot of energy and a lot of work, but if we want to get it done, it's it's gonna take some time. Go shoot some comps, just try and be out there.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think it melds like minds, and I think it moves people in the right direction because, you might, like, for example, like me meeting you, you're going to have ideas that I may have not thought of, and vice versa. It's like we can kind of iron sharpens iron, what I mean?
Exactly.
And you may be someone that's kind of, you've been more isolated, and it's like, man, how do I get involved? I want to, but it's like, I'm afraid to reach out, or I just, don't have time, or whatever the case may be. And you may be like heading in a direction that doesn't really make sense. And then if you meet, just meeting like one person, and then you can kind of start to like connect the dots and be like, whoa, like I never thought about things like that. So, and then that will just, it's like a domino effect that just starts to fall into place. And before you know it, you're like with a big group of guys, and you're being held accountable, and you're building brotherhoods. Like the group we have, I mean, it's like some of these guys are
it's hodgepodge.
It's it's a hodgepodge, but it's like we like love each other like brothers,
Yeah, it's awesome.
And it's all just from this kind of similar motivation, and then it spreads, and everyone's got like things they're really good at, which that's another thing. Like you get to kind of go into student mode and learn some niche thing from somebody.
You piggyback off of other people's interests. You know what I mean?
Yeah, everybody's got something to learn, something to teach for sure.
Like, yeah, I don't know a ton about radio, but like this guy knows a ton about radio, so share as much as you can for this dumb infantryman,
Yeah. Dude, and you guys are prior military too. You go shoot the Arctic Guardian comp. I mean, it's free. You can sign up.
You can do it as a veteran?
Oh yeah. It's prior or active mil and LE. So you guys being vets can go sign up and shoot the comp. I hope you guys have good bolt skills or precision or PRS. But dude, it's free. It doesn't cost you.
We don't have any bolt guns right now.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Maybe borrow one and just to be able to show up.
I'm going to build one again. So I used to do it a long time ago. Yeah. And I was a DM in the military and stuff. So I have some skills there, but nothing legit. Like no PRS. Like I am a complete novice when it comes to like the PRS side of things.
Me too.
I'd love to take a class actually from
shout out.
Yeah, from CR2 or CR squared shooting solutions, but it's a guy that actually Steven used to serve with, and he's kind of blown up, and he's legit. He's into he's gotten into the precision stuff pretty heavily, but I want to build a this is super random, but I'm going to slide it in here. I want to are you familiar with the DARPA rifle?
Yeah.
The XM3?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, dude, I want to build one. Just not practical at all, but
definitely not. But it's cool.
I want to build one so bad. And it's just, that would be so awesome. It would give me an excuse to get into the PRS. I've always loved that rifle for some reason, like that weird legacy Surefire muzzle device that's just protruding off the end of the barrel. And I actually found them as Charlie's Clones or whatever.
Yeah, Charlie's Clones.
Yeah, sells them, and the price makes no sense. Like, it wouldn't be practical at all for me to spend any money on that thing, but
do it.
I'm gonna do it anyways.
Yeah. But seriously, yeah, you should definitely sign up and go shoot it, because I meet all sorts of cool dudes out there.
So is it 2-man teams then? Is that what it is?
It's all 2-man teams. So yeah, 2-man.
Let's do it, dude.
Yeah,
I didn't know we could do it. I thought it was literally like active only.
No, not active only. Because there's a lot of vets that go out and shoot it too. So because that's kind of the targeting group.
Okay.
So as long as you're prior or active or reservist, like, you can get in there and shoot, and it's a great way to meet people, and it's free, and you get things out of it. So
it's free.
It's free. Yeah, you don't have to pay anything. And when you show up, they give you swag right off the bat. They give you sponsored coffee. They give you sponsored coffee mugs, T-shirts, hats. Like, you will walk away with stuff instead of losing stuff. I won 2 knives at the raffle, huge raffles. They raffled off like 3 Sons of Liberty Gunworks rifles. Yeah, they had a Staccato that they raffled off. They had a Leupold Mark V that they raffled off. Like, you will win something. People got free classes, backpacks. Like, I don't think I knew anyone who didn't walk away with something after the shoot. You could come in dog shit last, and you will walk away like, that was the greatest time ever, you know?
Yeah.
Because you won something. And Navy SEALs show up to it too, so they help run the course. Eddie Gallagher was there this year.
I saw that. Yeah.
So we hung out with him, and that was cool. And he set up a course of fire. And then Andy from Half Face Blades was also a prior Navy dude. So I won one of his pocket knives when we took second place. Yeah, dude, I'll pull it out later. But
yeah, dude,
he always sponsors. Whip it out. He always sponsors it, and he always has sweet things to give away. And he's just a stand-up guy, like, just a super genuine dude. And he sets up the carbine course, and it humbles everybody, humbles me every time. And yeah, man, he's always bringing stuff to give out. Some hatchets, like, dude, some cool stuff you can win.
That's super cool.
Free suppressors too. Some people won tickets for suppressors, like Thunder Beast suppressors, or like 50% off from $500 gift certificates. Like, just, you will make money, I feel like, when you go. That shouldn't be a driving factor, but yeah, it's a great time to go out there, shoot some stuff, learn some stuff, meet some dudes, get some swag.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We should do it. We should plan for it next year.
It's about this time every year.
Yeah, usually in June, and I'll make sure I send you guys out. The registration opens in like October or November of every year. They do early bird, and I'll let you guys know when it opens up, and make sure you guys get in on it. So,
dude, sweet. Well, we should just plan on doing it.
Yeah, that sounds
fun.
Screw it.
We'll probably score last place, but I don't give a crap, dude. We'll just go and freaking run a gun to the best of our ability.
Yeah, man, you meet some cool cats. Like I met Brent and Brad, who are Anchorage SWAT dudes, and
nice.
They're high speed guys, and yeah, you meet all sorts of random dudes out there. Yeah, it's a pretty good time.
Is that the case too? Like, if you're former law enforcement?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we should tell the Cold Frontier guys about it. Those 2 dudes could probably take it too.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
But
as far as where people can find you.
Drop the socials.
Ty_907, man. That's it. That's where to find me.
I'll have it in the description for those that are either have ADHD or TBI, and they're like, Ty, I got to go back and listen to that part. Ty907.
Yeah.
Underscore. You'll be able to just click on it in the description.
So it's funny because I use the hashtag Alaska Tactical on all my stuff, and I didn't realize that dude had a company up here. So if you search the hashtag Alaska Tactical, it'll be like 90% me and my buddies using that hashtag, and then like 1 or 2 posts will be from his courses.
Nice.
So anyways,
you took it over, dude.
Oh, I took it over. So that's my hashtag. Sorry, man, if you're listening.
Dude, we did the same thing for there's that company in Pakistan called Dynamic Defense Solutions, and they make they make armored vehicles.
Oh.
But we like completely took over that hashtag. So,
nice.
But it's funny because I think they like, I don't know them. I've never talked to them, but I think they got like mad about it because we went through a period where they were like tagging everything they did, and they were like double posting pictures. They were like just posting a ton. And so there's like, if you scroll through that hashtag, it's like our stuff, and then just scattered in, you'll see like all these armored vehicles all of a sudden. And then it's like our stuff again. But
yeah, nice.
It's funny.
But yeah, I'm only really on just the grams, man. I'm not much of anywhere else. Or Ripcord Industries too. If for some reason you find a loophole in that, to reach out to me.
That's awesome. Any plans to do like YouTube or anything, or no?
There is some talks in the works. So my buddy Aaron, 6416 Aaron, I think is his username. He was actually the guy that was on Dakota Myers podcast. I don't know if you guys saw that kind of go viral a little bit, but.
When he was asking him questions, and kind of like getting his side of the story, and kind of kind of holding the line a little bit. I did see that.
Yeah, so that's him.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, so he's trying to pump out some YouTube stuff, and I'm like, you know what, man, if you want to run YouTube, I'll just like send you videos and you can post them up, but that's cool. So I think it's interior development is what it's called, because Alaska's the interior. So
yeah. So he's up there in Fairbanks too?
Yeah, he's pretty much my cameraman.
Okay.
Yeah, we're back and forth. Like, I film all the things on his page, he films all the things on my page, and I just supply the camera gear, and I'm like, it's pretty rehearsed. I'm like, okay, you need to pan this way, come over here, I want this shot, I need these angles, and he's on it. So yeah, that's pretty much my go-to dude up there is Aaron. So super humble guy too.
How did he get linked up with Myers, the Dakota Myers guy?
I called him out on one of his posts. Because they were talking about like, you guys can't be on the range in your gear if you've never served in the military. And then Aaron was like, I guess I'll die then. I don't know. He said something like really witty in the comment section, and Dakota was like, we're going to have this guy on the podcast and I'm going to fucking humble him. That's what his goal was. And Aaron was just so chill about it and was like, he handled it so well.
Yeah. He was awesome.
Yeah. And Dakota was just trying to wedge him one way. And then I think he was like, well, I'm clearly not getting anywhere, so now I'm going to look like the bad guy. And I think he was trying to turn the new leaf over, because everybody was like pretty on him about what he said, and I kind of agree. Yeah. It's like, well,
I agree too.
You don't need to be in the military to own gear. You don't have to have certain own gear. People have different passions outside of that. It doesn't have to be in the military.
No,
dude, we say
if anything, like, dude, if you're just the dirty civilian, that's the go-to phrase. Like, dude, freaking power to you, man, to want to take up that responsibility. You know,
it's very American, and we say it all the time, but America wasn't founded by combat veterans.
No,
it wasn't a bunch of like, I served in GWAT. No, it was people that had families. They were farmers. They were trying to just live their life, and they were like, the redcoats are coming. You know, like it was regular people.
Yeah, those guys didn't have NDSMs. You know.
Yeah. So yeah, this whole perspective of like, if you're doing this stuff, you're a wannabe is just so stupid. It's like, no, you're an American, and this is a very uniquely American privilege and opportunity that we have. I think it's an inalienable human right across the board. But thankfully, our government has, the Declaration of Independence established this, and you know, obviously we have the Second Amendment, and those are things that could be in jeopardy if we don't maintain it. And that idea, I think, does put that in jeopardy. That idea of like, this needs to be regulated to people who sign up to be, someone that just serves in the government. And it's like, or for the state, and it's like, no, this is everyday people should have this capability.
Yeah.
So,
and I think people don't understand that when you're in the military, that doesn't make you good with guns at all. Not even close. People just think, oh, you're in the military, you must know how to shoot guns. It's like, oh no, definitely not.
Yeah.
I think in the Air Force, you only have to qualify like once every 2 years or something. Stupid, like 18 months, and you show up to the range to shoot the 9mm, and they're like, dude, it's just the saddest thing I've ever seen. It is. I'm sure you guys have seen some pretty terrible holes.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I've talked about it before, but I got my unit sent me to, like, there was some kind of battalion, like the best, what company will have the best. It was kind of like an EIB, but it was like,
but not an EIB.
It wasn't EIB. It was like a competition between all the battalions in 425 and in Alaska, where I was stationed, and or J-Bear. And yeah, it was basically like, send your best people at these things. And there was an M9 qual, and no, I had never shot the M9 table, but I was doing all that competition shooting. I was shooting on the side. Wasn't getting I never got training on the M9 in the military. Like, I did, like, you learn how to clear it and all that. They teach you that. But there was no, like, at least I don't remember there was any marksmanship training with the M9.
No, not unless you're like an officer or something like that.
Yeah, and they were literally like, send Barlow, because he does all that on his own time.
Yeah.
Because they knew. They're like, no one knows how to shoot pistols, And even rifles, it's like, you shoot the qualification table and you do ready-ups. Like, that's like what the Army does, There's no, even reloads and stuff. Like, they teach you, it's all tactical reloads, because they don't want to have to police up magazines at the end of the range day,
Oh, geez.
It's like, maintain your equipment. It's like, no, man. Like, if I'm in a firefight, I don't care about this $10 aluminum magazine, and that's why we have a bunch of extras back at the COP,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's a complete, you definitely don't learn how to shoot awesome in the military. You learn other things well, like you learn how to be a soldier, but you don't necessarily have to be a high-level marksman to be a soldier, so.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Air Force is real bad about that too. Like, all of our pilots, like Air Crew, carry the M9, and I don't think I can think of a lot of people I fly with. I'd trust with an M9. So it's like, oh,
Why
man.
do they even carry that? Is that like in case they have to eject or something? And then
Yeah, there's some spins on it, special instructions depending on the theater, and because it's we're in an aircraft, like a rifle is obviously not conducive to that environment.
right.
So for some reason we crashed and miraculously survived an airplane with no ejection seats or parachutes. Then we would have some sort of self-protection in theater is kind of the idea.
Okay.
And I wish they were better about giving us more range time of like, hey, you should go out and shoot with this, or, honestly, I wish I could concealed carry at work, but of all places, you can't carry a gun on a military installation, even if you're in uniform.
So stupid.
Yeah, you have to be a cop essentially, and that's pretty much it. Like, I don't know, just small things. But,
Yep. Weird government things don't make any sense.
Yeah,
but
I know.
Well, cool, man. Well, we really appreciate you coming on, and definitely go give Ty a follow, Ty907. I'm going to have him linked in the description, so scroll down there and look at it. Don't be one of those people that just doesn't know. We've had so many people tell us, like, I didn't even know there's a description. I'm like, I spend so much time. No. But no, definitely, I'll have them linked below, and
Nice.
I'll try to link some of these other resources we've talked about today. But yeah, man, we're going to go hit the range, so... Anything you want to say before we call it a day?
No, man, I'm just happy I got to come out here and do this with you guys. It was an awesome time, and hopefully maybe I get to do it again and come down here and hang out. So, yeah.
Cool, man.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for coming. It was an honor to have you.